Okay, welcome back to another episode of Red Dot Forum Camera Talk. It's been a while. We're back after a brief break. Welcome to 2021, everybody. And my name is David Farkas. I am joined by Josh Lehrer.
Hey, everybody.
We are your Leica Nerd hosts for today. We are joined, as always, by Jose Rivera, producing the show.
Hello, everyone.
As well as Kirsten Vignes and Peter Dooling, who are hanging out in the live chat. So hopefully you guys get a chance to get some questions in. But I think, well, first, let's start off the beginning. What are we talking about today?
This episode, after I'm sure a hiatus, everybody was anxiously awaiting our return, is we talked about analog M, which was about 70 odd years of M history.
Yeah.
And now we're focused on 15 years of digital M, starting with the M8 and making its way all the way to the M10R, which is the current top of the line M model. So we gathered quite a few cameras for this episode, as you can sort of see on the table.
There's actually some hiding over there.
Yeah, there's 4 deep and 5 deep in some spots. We've got a lot of really cool stuff that we're going to show. Some special editions, some really cool stuff, including something really special that just came out this week that we are going to show on air. So hopefully you stay tuned for that.
I'll give you a hint. It's a digital M.
Yeah, that's true. We're going to talk. So that is the theme of tonight. We're not talking about SL2. We're not talking about S. We're not talking about lenses. This is all about the history and present. But not the future. Don't ask me about the future, because we always say we don't know what's coming.
The crystal ball's broken today, so
yes.
out of service.
Crystal ball had to go back to customer care.
That's right.
Unfortunately,
in Wizardland. So, fair warning though, because Josh and I were talking before the show, and we're like, "Wow, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of digital cameras. Every single one of these is different. To give you an idea.
Yeah.
So, forewarned. Consider yourself forewarned that if we find that we don't get all the way through this, we might do a second part for Digital M, because this is really important. I mean, this is basically the modern day, I would say, main system for Leica.
Yeah, this is the bread and butter. This is what they started. Well, not with them, but they started with the rangefinder. And for us, having lived through this, we didn't sell M3s and M4s when they were new, but David has been doing this since before the M8. I came in just after the M9 came out. So this is really fresh in our minds.
Yeah. I was a beta tester for the M8 way back 15 years ago.
Yeah. So
it's crazy.
It was actually kind of special, really, to spend the time gathering up all these cameras, because we take for granted where we are now.
Yeah. But
in 15 short years, to see how far we've come, but yet how special those older models still are.
Oh, for sure.
It was fun. I had a good time putting all this together.
Little trip down memory lane.
A little bit, yeah. Still happening as I'm seeing all this in front of me, and really.
Oh, there they are.
Oh, there you go. There's some of them anyway.
I won't cast a shadow.
Again, we have a few surprises to show as well that are not on the table. They're just off camera. I think this episode will be a little bit different, because we are, of course, going to take questions like we always do, but we have a lot to cover as well. So we'll kind of just jump into it and talk about the history. We'll go in chronological order, of course.
Yep.
And keep the questions coming, because we'll get to them, and we're not going to rush. If, as David said, if we feel that there's, let's say we get to the ME and there's still, and it's 10:30 at night,
right,
we're going to stop and we're going to continue on.
We know that you guys need sleep, so we're going to let you go.
Yeah. We're not going to keep you all night, because as you know, we can talk and talk and talk. So
yes. I also I had a request from inside the team, and I am going to do it. Maybe in the next couple days. So basically, to put a visual reference on these, a timeline on Red Dot Forum, and actually have it as a continuing resource for any cameras that come out afterwards. So we'll have a running visual timeline, kind of a vertical timeline that you can scroll through, starting with the M8 and ending at the M10R, but then adding on whatever that future might hold.
Yeah.
And links to all the relevant resources for all those cameras. So I think that's something you guys would like. If you do, let me know in the comments.
You should link to your Lightroom presets too in that same article.
I should also link to my Lightroom presets as
you
well.
You need to make one for the M10R, I think, because you don't have one yet. People have asked, so I was...
Yes.
What better time to ask to mention it than right now? So
I feel like I'm on the hook here. Okay. Yes. So, good.
So, yeah, it is hard to believe that it's been 15 years, but yeah, which is wild. And hard for me to believe that I've been with you for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when the M9 had a crazy waiting list, and they were selling on eBay for double.
Ridiculous.
And it was crazy. And you couldn't get any lenses. We'd open up our inventory cabinet and there would be nothing. I mean,
it took 2 years actually.
I don't miss those days, really. So why don't we just get into it? I will let you start since you are the elder statesman of the group.
Okay.
So
okay.
I will prompt you. What was the first digital M?
The first digital M was the M8, which might sound a little confusing. Why start at 8? Well, because the M7 is a film camera. So naturally, like I said, okay, yeah, the next one is, we go from M7 is our last film camera. M8 is just another camera. It happens to be digital. And that was their approach back then. So let's take a look at the M8 and kind of go over some of the highlights here. I do have it. Wow. It's been a while. Yep.
So this is the M8 in black chrome. While David's assembling it, what I'll say is the M8 came in black chrome and silver chrome. Black chrome being what you find today on an M10, that sort of matte black.
Which also was the colors for the M7.
Yes.
M7 was available in the exact same, black anodized finish as well as the silver chrome finish. So there it is. That is the M8.
Now you see we got these sweet new little infographics that David worked very hard on.
Ooh, pretty.
Let us know what you think about this. Because we try to get a little visual aid going.
Yeah. All right. So as you can see here, the camera was introduced in 2006 and ran all the way to 2009. And of course, as you can see, it is the first digital M. So inside, we're dealing with here, behind the old shutter, is a 10.2 megapixel CCD sensor. And that sensor was not full frame. It was not possible for Leica to do a full frame sensor at this point because of the high incident angle of the lenses, among some other factors, specifically the spacing and the distance that the sensor had to be from the flange here. So the flange to focal distance was a difficult challenge to overcome. They did make the camera a bit thicker, as you can see here, much thicker than the M7 that it was not replacing, but adding to the lineup. And that means that you had a 1.3x crop on any lens that you'd put on here. It was also the first camera that introduced, if I can point to it here, that introduced this, which is a 6-bit code reader. And Josh, if you could hand me a lens. Thank you. So this, let's see, turn it to where you can see it.
A little soft.
A little forward or back?
Back.
Oh, okay, there we go.
And perfect.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So what you can see here is that is a 6-bit code. So there's 6 dots on the lens. They're actually engraved and then filled with enamel in either black or white. And it's basically binary, ones and zeros in with 6, I forget how many combinations total, but each one corresponds to a lens, a focal length, and sometimes a version. So this happens to be a 90. So other things that are significant about the camera is the rangefinder changed from the traditional M7.
The dog is drinking, don't mind.
I don't even know if they can hear that.
Can they hear really good noise cancellation? Oh, I can hear the slurping.
Yeah.
It's okay.
All right. Okay. I'm going to wait for the slurping to stop. You guys can't hear it.
He's very thirsty.
Maybe you hear it. I don't know.
He's very thirsty.
Okay.
Oh.
So the M7 has a 0.72 standard viewfinder. The M8 actually has a 0.68x viewfinder, so it was a little bit wider, which some people liked and some people didn't like. And the rangefinder was aligned to 0.7 meters, which is, interestingly, the minimum focus on most...
not that one.
Not this one, because this is a...
350 AFO if you want one.
Yeah.
Goes to 0.7.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, so most standard M lenses have a minimum focus distance of 0.7 meters. So they figured that was good because you'd be most accurate at minimum distance. Unfortunately, this had some parallax problems where as things got further away towards infinity, the framing in the viewfinder was kind of inaccurate. And another highlight of this camera is that it has a 1/8,000th of a second max shutter speed, which ended up actually being the fastest of all the digital M's that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, no digital M since has had anything faster than a 4,000th of a second. So
Correct.
But David, let's go to the wide shot. I want you to explain to our viewers here a little bit more about, because we're going to talk about this, this 0.7 meter.
Yeah.
What does it mean when you say the viewfinder is calibrated, if you will, for 0.7 meters? What does that mean practically?
So when you look through an M finder, you see frame line sets, right? We see 35, 135, we see 28 and 90, 50 and 75. These are the traditional frame line sets. So when you move the lever, you'll see different frame lines. And when we talk about parallax, because you're not looking through the lens, you're looking through a rangefinder window, a viewfinder window here, the lens is there, there's an offset. So in order to kind of accommodate that, actually, if anyone has their M available and they want to hold it up to their eye and do this little test, if you rack really fast from closest focus to infinity and you look through the viewfinder, you'll notice the frame lines actually shift diagonally. Slightly. Yeah. But that's why I said you got to do it really quickly. And you'll actually see that subtle movement, and that's to correct for parallax, to be a little more accurate as you get to infinity. The issue with this is those frame lines, not just the parallax, but also the frame size. So you would end up with vastly different, subject to fill ratio, where things that you thought were in your shot weren't in your shot, and things that you hope, wouldn't be were. So the frame lines weren't really very accurate. It was an interesting.
Yeah, if I can clarify a little bit, essentially what the 0.7 designation means is that
at that distance, yeah.
That means when you focus your lens at 0.7 meters, whatever is at the edge of those frame lines is at the edge of your frame. Right. That's your actual precise framing. And as you begin to focus farther away, closer towards infinity, you start to actually get a little bit more than the frame line see. So if you were to put tape on a wall and line it up at 0.7 meters,
a lot of people did,
and change your focus, you'll see that you're actually going to get more.
Right.
So it's nice if you're doing a lot of, let's say, portrait work or close-up work, because you are getting the most accurate framing up close. Mm-hmm. But most people using rangefinders are doing medium to long distance work, like street shooting.
Right. So the thing is, when we got from, and sorry, I kind of went around that topic.
That's okay. That's what I'm here for.
So thank you for the clarification. That was excellent. Mm-hmm. And basically past 1 to 1.5 meters, things start getting kind of inaccurate in terms of, let's call it sloppy framing. And some lenses are actually worse than other ones. I know for a fact, if anyone's familiar with Sean Reed of Reed Reviews, he extensively tested this, all different focal lengths, all different distances to actually measure how far each one was off. And I can't remember at the moment which one is the least accurate. I think it might be 28, but don't quote me on it.
Yeah, it's not dire. It's pretty much we're talking about. But if you are doing super, super precise, far distance photography, an M8, you'd have to be just aware of that. And you can use the thickness of the frame lines to kind of guess.
Yeah, and I should say, at least I believe that Leica's intention here is that they didn't want any frame error when you're doing close-up portraiture where framing is really critical. But they figured that if you're getting a little bit more, you can always crop it.
Yeah.
It's better to get more than less.
That's what I was going to say. Exactly. So that's what that means. And we'll talk about how that changed throughout the range, especially in the first few generations. So now hopefully that makes more sense. And we'll touch back on it as well. So that's what that means.
Now, I want to show kind of another cool feature that isn't only on this camera. It never showed up again. So if we go back to the close-up, and is the camera on? There we go.
You got a battery in there, right?
Yeah, I do. So there's no memory card, though. So this little round hole there is a little LCD screen, and you can see your battery life and number of shots remaining. But of course, let's call it Y2K kind of thinking. They didn't realize that memory cards might get big enough where you have more than 999 shots.
Yeah.
So that's only a 3-digit countdown. So whoopsie. It basically just, they fixed it with firmware to just say 999 until you go underneath 999.
Yeah.
Because again, you're not going to run out if you have 1,000 shots.
Yeah. But it is unique in that the M8 and the M8.2 are it's the only generation of M's that have a screen, a second screen.
Yeah, it's kind of
a
cool.
tiny little guy, but
Yeah,
it is
cool.
there, which is pretty cool.
And it was designed with the round aperture here to sort of mimic a film counter.
Yeah.
That was it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's that.
That's how you can tell if someone has an M8 from a distance.
Yeah.
If you look at the top, if you see the screen, you know it's either an M8 or an M8.2. So,
Yeah, because when they switched to the M9, it has no screen and a little notch
yeah,
here.
we'll show that.
Yeah.
Come
Now, the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
You got it? Yeah. Okay. So, it's not all unicorns and rainbows. The M8 was very popular. A lot of people were really anxious for a digital M. And, well, unfortunately, things started going a little awry. And I am going to abscond myself here of blame because when I got the camera to test, I got it in August and I'm in Miami and everyone is in like shorts and t-shirts. And I went and I did street shooting. I did some night shooting. I was like, this is awesome. This is so much fun. It's a digital M. This is great. Yeah, it wasn't until the camera shipped later in the fall and everyone started wearing synthetic fleece, especially black synthetic fleece, that people discovered very quickly that those materials were turning very brownish, red, purple.
Yeah.
Because the camera turned out that the sensor was sensitive to infrared and near infrared light to a certain degree.
Excessively so for what would be expected. Yeah.
So, again, unfortunately, all the testing was done in summertime, both in Germany and at beta testers, and nobody was wearing black fleece in the summertime. So it kind of flew under the radar. I've actually seen the sensitivity charts that Kodak was the sensor provider that they showed. And the spectral sensitivity graph showed just like the tiniest little sliver of sensitivity in that high red range. And they assured Leica, they said, no one will ever see it. It'll be fine.
Whoops.
Because usually there's an infrared cover glass over the sensor. But remember, I talked about that high incident angle. And they didn't want to have too thick of a cover glass, especially with the infrared filtration, because in the middle, you'd have, let's say, 1 millimeter, okay? But on the edge where it stretches out because of, math and geometry, maybe it would be 1.3 meters. It would be longer. It would have more, the light would travel through that glass for longer, filtering it out, and you'd end up with basically blue or cyan corners because it would start filtering out visible light, and that's not good. So this was a camera where Leica learned a lot.
Yeah.
They learned what worked, what didn't work. But to their credit, when they discovered that there was a problem, very quickly they tried to make good on it. And they said, okay, we have these new filters, which are UV IR filtration filters. And I don't know, we could try to get
close up. Yeah, you can see it if you look at it just right.
Let's switch to a close up there.
Okay,
and you can see that kind of like flashing between green and red. So this filter required, the camera required you to use these filters to filter out the excessive amount of infrared light coming into the camera. And because it would be entering the lens at a fairly telecentric manner, it wouldn't affect the image quality of the sensor.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in.
And Leica provided 2 of these to every purchaser free of charge. And in fact, they went a step further. The very first batch of customers, as a oops, we're sorry, got to choose a free lens or a discounted lens.
Discounted lens. Yeah, discounted lens. But
yeah.
I just want to mention that since I take all the trade-ins here, I've seen people using these UV IR filters on M9s and newer cameras. Definitely don't do that. Yeah. So if you're perusing your filter collection at some point, just make sure that there's no filter on your non-M8 digital M that says UVA/IR on the outside edge, because that is only going to hurt you. It's not going to help you. The M8 and M8.2 are the only digital M's that require the use of the UVA/IR filter. So just be aware of that. Yeah. And usually when I sell a used M8, I ask someone what they want, and I have like extra filters floating around. So I just kind of throw stuff in there. Any questions on the M8, Jose?
I don't know.
Yeah, actually, that was one of the questions discussing the purple cast that was recalled. So,
There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's not a secret anymore.
It wasn't a secret then either.
Yeah, what I mean is like it's just part of the M8 experience. Not really a huge deal. You just put the filter on it and you call it a day. So is our chat broken over there?
I don't know. I'm not seeing the chat on our end.
There's always got to be some problem. David did all this work. We should mention we're still in the process of changing up the studio.
Yep.
I know it looks the same, but we actually just switched from a pair of SL2s to a pair of SL2Ss. So if we look any better or worse, I guess, let us know, because David really revamped our setup. So the M8, one thing I'll jump in and I'll talk about this on each camera. You can still have these serviced. There are some components like the LCD screens that Leica doesn't have anymore, from what I understand. But in terms of just a CLA, calibration, general checkup, Leica customer care in the US can still do that. I just had one serviced a month ago. So this one's been serviced recently. So if you have an M8, it can be serviced, except for the screen that cannot be serviced.
I do want to actually show, because this is kind of interesting as well, the interface changes over the years. So I'm going to show this one thing, and then we're going to move on to the next thing. Okay. So there we go. All right. So it's kind of a little bit different interface. You'll obviously notice the screen is smaller. I think this was a 2.5
or
2.5
inch,
2.5 inch,
230,000 dot screen.
Super, right?
Yeah.
we're living like it's 2006. It's still serviceable for sure. And we've got the 5-button interface here, and actually kind of a cool thing, which was a dial, which was a good idea. A dial and a multi-pad combined into one, with then a set button up here. So it was, or a menu button rather. This is the menu button, then the set button's at this side. So you kind of use it. It's hard to use it like that, but it almost like a two thumb kind of operation, and it works pretty well. And of course, we have the familiar off, single, continuous, and self timer.
And while you're doing that, David, let's we're gonna shoot each camera to 500th of a second as we show them.
Oh, okay. Good.
It's gonna be easier to do one at a time than all at once. We'll compare some.
Yeah, there's so many.
So let's
right,
hear.
come back to the wide shot.
Let's hear the M8 at a 500th of a second.
Oh, yeah. You hear that?
Yeah. That's like a typewriter. I love that sound. It's not exactly discreet.
It's very mechanical, for sure. So something that's interesting about this generation of camera is it has the shutter firing, and then it's that click, and then that whir after is actually recocking the shutter. It's a very mechanical sound.
Yeah. In terms of serviceability, I think someone might have asked about sensors. Because the M8 sensor didn't have a corrosion issue, that came later on the M9, which we'll talk about. I've never had to actually have an M8 sensor replaced, so I don't know if Leica can still do that. I literally cannot think of ever having to replace a sensor on an M8. So I couldn't speak to whether they're still available because there wasn't some systemic problem that needed addressing. Anyway, so that is the M8. So that's the consequence of having an 8,000th of a second maximum shutter speed. Is it is loud. But if you're shooting anything that doesn't require super discretion, it doesn't really matter that much, in my opinion.
For sure.
That is the M8. Any other questions? Let me take a look at our...
Oh, there we go. I got the chat to work.
Hey, it's working now. Okay.
Oh, wow. There was a lot. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. We had a little chat bugginess, but there's
Any
got to be some
comment
problem.
on the M8 shutter? We talked about it.
Yeah.
Can
you use you don't want to use IR filter on any other camera other than the M8.
On a mono camera?
I haven't tested it to see if there's what if any detriment, but just don't do it.
I mean, I don't think it would hurt anything. It's just you're limiting your... I don't know. You're cutting off a wavelength of light, but it's not visible light. I don't know.
Maybe one day I would test it, but honestly, probably not, because it's pointless. If you want filtration, get a UV filter.
So William asked, just how reliable is focus on a rangefinder? Now, that answer is going to change over the generations. On the M8, it wasn't at the outset. There was some variability because Leica was transitioning from all film camera, and film lenses to digital camera, digital lenses, which have a lot lower margin of error when you're focusing. So the tolerances had to increase, and that means Leica's testing and calibration procedures all had to change. On the M8, it was not ideal. There was still some variability. By the time they got to the 8.2, which is what we're going to talk about next, they had actually rolled out all new procedures and calibration equipment in the factory. So by the 8.2, calibration was much, much, much more under control.
Yeah. Although customer care nowadays does a really good job servicing M8s in terms of getting them like calibrated and ready to go. So I don't know. I think for the uniqueness of it, for the price point, and for the look of the CCD sensor, M8s are fun.
Well, and we should talk about this, which is some people, because of that IR sensitivity, actually use this camera. They'll pick it up or recycle it if they have all new cameras. You can put an infrared photography filter, not an infrared blocking filter, but basically a visible light blocking filter. It looks very, very dark, red, and it's almost black. 0.93 or 0.92 filter. Some people use one or the other. And not only can you shoot infrared with this, you can actually shoot false color infrared.
Right, you're taking advantage of the flaw, if you will, of the design flaw.
Yeah. We actually did a whole workshop 15 years ago on how to do false color infrared photography, and you get like celery green trees and orange skies.
I think we should go to the M8.2.
Yeah, for sure.
Spent a lot of time on the M8 battery.
Well, it is the first.
I know, I get it. We can still answer questions about it. Why don't I do that for you? And you check.
I am going to show the people. So
the people.
The base plate comes off like any other M, and battery pops out, memory card goes in. Do you want to give a little heads up on what SD cards are compatible here?
Yeah, for me, the sweet spot is always 16 gigabytes. You want to make sure you're on the latest firmware, which you can easily download from Leica's website. I don't use anything bigger than that or anything smaller than that. So just say it, 16 gigs. I was joking earlier with you, the least amount of letters on the card, the better, like it's, think about when this camera came out and what was current at the time. So that is that. And again, just to show, the M8 came in black chrome and silver chrome. So this is one of each.
Let's get a close up there.
Can we do a close up? Let's see.
But a regular close up, we don't need the fancy frame.
There we go. And over.
There you go.
Not enough
Perfect.
room.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Nice.
So there's your silver chrome and black chrome M8s. Cool. All right. So next in the Pantheon is the M8.2. Now you talked about, well, this one's black paint. So
Sure.
We'll talk about it.
That's different.
I will put the battery in. I'll be your battery putter inner.
Okay.
There we go. M8.2 came out in 2008.
So 2 years after the introduction, roughly. I believe it came out of Photokina 2008.
It is, September 15th, 2008.
So this was a Photokina launch, which Leica was prone to do in those days. And just waiting for my close-up here.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Now you'll notice, before David starts, the most obvious cosmetic change is the black Leica dot.
So cool.
Don't ask me to get you those black Leica dot stickers because you cannot. Leica will not sell them. They will not give them to you. If you have one of these serviced and it needs to be replaced, they'll do that. But that's like the most coveted Leica logo in the world is that legendary black dot. So
yes, it's very cool.
Carry on, David.
So it still says M8 here. It doesn't say M8.2. It does say M8.2 in the hot shoe, which you probably can't read from where you are.
I can see it on our screen.
Okay, yeah, it says 8.2 there in white. And you'll notice something else significant. I'm going to flip it over so you can read it. The other thing that's really significant, sorry about that, okay, is this one only goes to 4,000th of a second. So the M8 that came before it went to 8,000. This went to 4,000 because it's a new, quieter shutter. And it also had the ability to, like a discrete mode. Remember the discrete mode?
Yes.
Let's see if I can find that in the menu.
Did you go through all the changes? All right. So it's
not yet. So, okay, we'll go through that first. Okay. Yeah. So obviously you can see this is black paint, not black anodized. Has a nice shine to it.
Or black chrome, they call it.
Yeah, black chrome.
First time it was black chrome, yeah.
This one actually is a really clean example because normally with the black paint, it definitely develops.
Yeah, you can see on the power switch, there's a little bit of brass. That's pretty common.
Yeah,
that's where you touch a lot.
Barely, but
this one's pretty good.
Yeah, this one has a little bit of brass right on the front edge there.
Not bad.
But otherwise, yeah, normally you would see a lot of these edges here, especially on the corners, on the base plate.
Yeah,
would get all brass.
You get it.
Super, super nice.
Yeah.
And a lot of people really like that brassing look on a black paint camera.
Yeah.
And basically, the other big change is we went to quieter shutter, the change of sapphire glass like you would have on a high-end wristwatch. So this is extremely scratch resistant, very abrasion, scratch resistant, and usually it's signified by a little diamond logo that is barely visible there.
Never going to be able to see it, but it's there.
It's there, we promise.
Yeah.
And the other big change is there was a lot of feedback on the rangefinder calibration of the frame lines. So they changed the frame lines in here to be kind of the complete other way at 2 meters, which is middle distance. That's basically, like
And this is the only,
6 feet.
if my memory serves, the only digital M that's ever been calibrated at 2 meters.
That is correct.
This is unique in that respect.
That is correct.
So this is going to be the most accurate composition at infinity of any digital M camera, of any M camera at all.
So we can come back to the big
Well,
shutter.
before they do that, Jose,
you want to
the shutter, show the shutter speed dial again, because there's a new position on there.
Yeah.
4000s, which is the S.
Yep.
Not a feature most likely anyone watching this video would use, but that's snapshot mode.
Oh gosh.
Which was like this dumbed down, stripped down, super basic mode.
Now see, I didn't talk about that because I still pretend that it never existed.
Well, I mean, we need to talk about the changes, so we're talking about the
gosh.
changes. So that is.
They basically took, would essentially would become kind of a progenitor for P models. Sapphire glass, black paint, blacked out logo or no logo, quiet shutter. This is kind of like an M8P or MP8 or whatever.
M8P would be like the modern iteration of that, if you will. Yeah.
But instead it's the M8.2, which kind of was a throwback to like the R6.2 days and things like that.
Yeah, and also worth mentioning a very minor difference, but noteworthy if you're buying one of these, is the M8 came with this big brick battery charger, and they changed that on the M8.2 to the small compact travel charger, which carried through the M9. So if you're buying an M8.2, make sure it has that newer charger in there. You can still buy them new, but that's sort of like a way to tell if it's all complete or not. So
that's a good point.
A minor thing. But again, black paint, gorgeous. I think they changed the leather a little bit.
They did. This is vulcanite.
I'm just going to hold this here.
I was going to...
Close up.
Yep. So this is...
Can we get the close up, Jose?
I got it.
You got it?
Yep.
Do not drop it or I'll be very mad. And there we go. So you can see the M8 on top has sort of
just go to the regular
sandpapery vulcanite.
Yeah,
and the M8.2 has
this is kind of a sandpapery thing, and then this is textured vulcanite, more like what you would see, on on older film cameras.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just another small change.
Yeah.
8.2. Oh, shutter sound.
Shutter sound.
Yeah.
Okay.
500th
first, and then I'll do the silent mode.
Yeah.
Or discrete mode. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is 500th of a second. Oh, same lens.
You don't need a lens on there.
Well, yeah, it changes the timbre.
Okay. Okay. Here we go.
So definitely quieter.
With the wide shot?
Yeah.
No, we're on the wide shot. Wasn't paying attention. Way quieter.
Way quieter. It still has that whir sound though, right? So if I go in the menu.
Remember where it is?
I should also show just one more regular close-up here. This is the way the menu system looks. So it's kind of this flat menu in terms of organizational structure, and you just scroll all the way through. But it's this alternating like light gray, dark gray. Just
look at the date.
What's the date?
This camera was, when they get serviced, they reset to this crazy like.
Oh, wait. This wasn't made in 1970?
No, believe it or not.
Man.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to change this. Sorry, guys. I need to see the... Okay, so advance. There we go. Found it. Okay, so it said advance is standard here. Now, if I maybe we'll be able to hit the set button, and you'll see there discrete is an option, and we're going to set that. Okay, so now what it's done is it separated the shutter release from the shutter advance. So I click once, and that's the shutter sound, but my finger is still firmly depressed on the shutter. And when I release, then it advances. So again, except the way this was supposed to be used in practice, and the way I used it, was you taking a picture, tuck it behind your back, can't hear it.
Now, I'm going to tell David to stop taking pictures because this camera's going to be for sale, and I've already noted the shutter count. And now we're screwing me up. I have to note to self, add 4 exposures to the total.
Sorry
for
about
anyone
that.
buying these cameras, just add another 3 or 4 David exposures. You know they were used carefully in the studio.
Very carefully.
Yeah.
For posterity.
We should not get too into ourselves. Questions, I'm sure there are M8.2 questions.
Okay, let's see. Jose, you want to?
Yeah. Is the shutter the same on the M8.2 and the M9?
I never thought. I guess the same sound.
I believe it is.
Yeah, it's the same. I mean, it's a larger shutter to accommodate a larger sensor.
It also has the discrete mode.
Yeah, it's the same. I think it's the same.
We're going to find that out.
I don't know if it's the same like hardware, but the sound is the same, if that's the question that's being asked.
See, I do wonder if...
Well, they did increase the durability, or the M9 had a longer lasting shutter, so my guess is...
I think it's new.
It's got to be changed over, although that's certainly a question I can
Well,
find
also,
out an answer
remember,
to.
we're having a shutter for an APS-H camera versus a full-frame camera.
Yeah.
So I am gonna say yes, absolutely. It is a new shutter mechanism in an M9.
The shutter sound may actually be canceled out by our noise reduction software. Is it because Julie's saying that it's kind of quiet?
Really?
Yeah. So maybe we may need to do like a separate audio thing. That's okay.
Oh my.
M8.2 also came in silver chrome. Now, unlike the black where this was black paint versus black chrome, silver finish is the same. And you'll notice that only the black M8.2 has the black dot, although this camera also has been slightly modified. I'll show it because it's kind of cool.
Oh, is that the scraped out one?
Yeah, this one is, somebody scraped out the paint on this M8. So this is not stock. It's a little blasphemous for me to show a modified camera on what I'm doing anyway. Super cool.
Well, it's the same so it's the same vulcanite. Just hold that up for another second.
Yep. Here we go. See. All right. So now, questions. Jose.
Yes.
Hit us with the questions.
Going back to the M8, do you think Leica will implement an 8,000th of a second shutter in future M cameras?
No.
It does not look like it, no.
No, I think the logical next level of functionality would be an electronic shutter.
Exactly.
Like we have on the CL, the SL, and the Q. Of course, I don't know for sure, but that would make a lot more sense than trying to change spring tension and mechanics and all that stuff.
It absolutely would.
Next. More questions.
My last M8 kept showing vertical lines on the image even after calibration and service. Lines were gone for a few months and came back. Any CCD pixel remap without sending the camera for service?
No, I don't think Leica, on things like the M10, Leica can issue custom firmware to map out that. I don't believe they can do that on the M8. So.
Well, I think it's worth, this is another interesting point for the really geeky among us, me. The M8, M8.2 and the M9 the firmware was not designed in-house. It was actually designed with a electronics partner named Yanoptic, who actually they did software for medium format digital backs. So Leica went to them to basically do the firmware on here, which is why when we make a generational leap to the M240 in a little bit, that actually was done in-house.
Yeah.
With their own processors. So these were, in the M8, M8.2, M9, they were off-the-shelf ASIC chips that they could just buy, and the firmware was written for them. So it's very difficult. They don't have access to the same kind of features that they do in the newer cameras that are all in-house.
I would say that I'm not, as a reseller, and I'm not selling any M8s that haven't been CLA'd, and I'm making sure that they work okay. I would say that given how many M8s are still out there and being used, overall they've been reliable when serviced. I couldn't speak for one that's like totally original, but for their first ever venture into a digital M, I'm continued to be impressed by the functionality. Yes.
This is an M8.2 question that I think you can answer.
Okay.
Which is, what is the coffee stain on the LCD that I have heard?
Yeah, that was an issue where you would actually get almost like a brown.
You want to just show them on the back of the camera?
Well, these don't have it. So.
No, but outline it. Show the size.
Basically, like you would get a brown discoloration on the back of the. It's hard to show. Like taking up a large percentage. I can get a close up of this here.
Not 100%. Like 80. Let's say like 80, 70, 80%.
There.
Yeah.
Cool. A little bit soft. There we go. So you would get like almost like a puddle was forming of like slight brown. It was still quite usable, but I don't know exactly why that happened. I'm sure Leica didn't actually make that component themselves, so maybe some kind of supplier defect.
And it was only on the...
But they don't have those screens anymore. So if you have the coffee stain, you're just going to have to deal with it. That is just how it is. It's not great, but, Thankfully, it's not a debilitating. It's not in the actual photo. It's just on the screen.
It's something to look for if you're in the market for one of those cameras, for sure.
Yeah.
And unique to the 8.2 wasn't actually on the M8, just the 8.2.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the questions here real quick. What do you, Greg's question, what do you call the syndrome where you do everything possible to avoid fingerprinting your viewfinder window?
Utility.
Have you seen that movie Seven, where he like cuts off his fingerprints? I think that's what you have to do, because
It's going to happen.
you just got to carry a lens cloth. I'm always cleaning off my rangefinder and
Yeah.
focusing patch. It's just like part of the
Right.
It's
It's
part
just-
of the game.
how we do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just one quick one.
Yeah.
A question about the black paint finish on the M8.2
Sure.
and through to the M240. Is
Yeah.
it the same as the current analog MP camera?
No,
I don't.
it's not.
Well, no. The MP is like a black, more of a lacquer, shinier black.
High gloss.
The body material is different and the process is different. So no, the MP still is what I would consider the pinnacle of black paint. They call it black paint. The naming is the same, but it's slightly different. I do want to answer Brian's question. Can you ask me that question?
Sure.
please?
Brian asks, why did Leica delete the ability to determine the number of exposures taken with the camera after the M9?
Yeah. The answer to
I
that
think we need
question.
to put a button in that because we're going to get to it when we talk about the.
Oh, you want me to talk about it later?
We'll talk about it later.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fair. We will talk about that. But let's
Stay tuned,
Yes.
Brian, for the answer when we talk about the
usually David's the one
M240.
getting ahead of himself. Now I'm doing it.
You're getting a little ahead of us.
okay with that.
We're still living in the M8, M8.
That's right. So M8, M8.2, the real sort of highlights, right? You need IR filter. They're 1.3 crop, CCD, 10 megapixel, super fun, and yeah,
And if you have one of each, just be aware that they're going to frame very differently in the viewfinder.
correct. All right, let's
For
move
better or
on.
worse.
Let's move on to Leica's first real seismic change
Ooh. Yeah.
in the digital M landscape, which is
September 9th, 2009. 999.
That's right.
Dun, dun, dun.
oh my goodness.
Yep, they did it. It's a huge, earth-shaking announcement that would forever change the company. So that would be the Leica M9. This is a very important camera for Leica, and I think it's a very important camera for Leica users. This is the camera that brought a lot of people to the M system. I remember when this came out and getting calls of people looking to buy the M9. At least half, were people that had never had a Leica before. This was going to be their first Leica M camera because it's the first full-frame digital M. They fixed the infrared problem. It no longer needed any UV IR filters. They upped the resolution to 18 megapixel. It's still a CCD made by Kodak TrueSense at the time. And interestingly, I guess they did what was tried and true. So we went from 0.7 meters on the M8 to 2 meters on the M8.2 to now a 1 meter, which of course is interesting because that is the distance that is on the M7
There you go.
and
That-
the M6
and all future digital
and
Ms.
all future digital cameras. So basically, they learned their lesson, stick to what works with film, done deal. It is the same 0.68x viewfinder magnification, just as on the previous models. It is the same thickness as the previous models, but you'll notice that there's no little supplementary LCD here. They've just gone with this little notch, basically to make the bulky top look a little bit more svelte and kind of remind you of a film M that has a rewind knob here, like on an MP, for instance. There's a little rewind doohickey right there. We still have the standard off, S, single, continuous, and self timer. And we still go to 4,000 a second, but it's worth noting, if I can get a good sharp, okay. You'll notice that we have 4,000 and we have A and we have B. What letter is missing?
No S.
There is no S.
Hooray.
It never existed. Snapshot mode
It's gone.
is gone. We do have the same rear control layout. So we've got the same 2.5-inch LCD with the 5-button interface, as well as the little wheel and direction pad. And that, folks, is the M9. Again,
I want to rehash.
so you can come back here.
No UV IR filters. That
Nope.
problem was fixed. So you don't need that. If you have one of those and you have an M9, please take it off your lens.
Please do.
Please do. Now, here's the thing. In 2021, and really the past few years, the M9 has generated a ridiculous cult following. And that was only exacerbated by the fact that Leica stopped being able to get replacement sensors. We didn't talk about corrosion.
Nope, not
which
yet.
we can.
Yeah,
now
sure.
seems like a good time. So the
On this
M8,
camera.
the M8 had its teething problems with
Yep.
the UV with the IR sensitivity. The M9 had sensor corrosion. If you're not familiar with that, it was basically not the sensor itself, but the cover glass over the sensor would rust effectively, corrosion. So that would cause these sort of spots of like halos showing up on your images. It took Leica some time to identify the problem and solve the problem, which essentially meant Kodak and later TrueSense, well, Kodak sensor division, changing the formulation of the cover glass to make it resistant to the corrosion. So to be clear, if you have an M9 with the replaced sensor, replaced with the newer version, it will not suffer from corrosion again.
Right.
At least not that we've seen. And it's been quite a while since they've been doing that.
Yeah,
So
of course.
they did it for free for a while, and eventually, of course, that was not sustainable. So then they did it subsidized for a long time, where I believe they just charged for the part,
Yeah, and I'll
for the
pull
labor.
up. I'm going to pull up the.
But they still were not making the sensors. They were relying on TrueSense to make these sensors. And at a certain point, TrueSense, I imagine, was like, we're done with this.
Yeah.
So they stopped, and that was it. That was the last batch of sensors, no more. So now,
Here. So if you switch over to red dot, or to the screen
Yeah,
here.
there
Yeah.
we go.
So I just searched for CCD corrosion and red dot forum. Just if you type, in the search box, and you can see the entire history, the sordid history here of the corrosion issues. But this gives you I think this is dated. This is
no, that's not the newest one, is it?
This is January 2020.
That's a year old.
Whoops,
There's a
whoops,
newer
whoops.
one.
Just a second, guys. 2019,
The bit,
2017.
What did you search for?
CCD corrosion.
Just search for CCD.
August. This one.
Is it that one?
Yeah, I think that's the latest one. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, we're doing great.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So no longer offers CCD
there we go.
replacement.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So now there's new upgrade options, as you can see here. They actually. Oh, this.
So that's not even the newest one either. The newest
M10R?
one- Oh wait, M10R.
Yeah.
Well, of course that's not true. So anyway, so instead of, because they couldn't replace the sensors anymore, Leica essentially says, send us your corroded M9 or M9 monochrome,
Yep.
and we'll sell you a brand new model at a discounted price, like a subsidized trade-in program, which is done through the dealers. Like we can do that. So
Yeah. But your camera's gone for.
that's it. I don't know where it goes. There's some ginormous pile of M9 somewhere with corroded sensors. So there's no doubt that out of camera, the files from the M9 look unique.
Yeah.
We've discussed this before. David has an extensive 3-part article on Red Dot Forum where he basically shows you that you can make a file from an M240 look like a file from the M9. So while the CCD look is not non-replicable, you can't do that. Certainly out of camera, the M9 has a unique look for sure.
A lot of people call it digital Kodachrome.
Yeah, and it's got the sound and the feel of it's kind of like this.
Yeah.
It's modern enough to work well in 2021, but vintage enough to feel like you're using something old and cool.
Yeah. So I want to show, just so you guys, I challenge you, because that's what this is I put this to the test in terms of putting these out there. And this article is already 5 years old. Lightroom has gotten eons better. My own processing has gotten better. But basically, I took a challenge and said, okay, acting on this idea that, because I kept hearing 5 years ago, CMOS will never look like CCD. Anybody can tell the difference. I'm like, cool, let's put that to the test. So what I did is I processed, actually first I went out, I was in San Francisco on vacation with my family, and I had an M240 and an M9, and I took the same pictures walking around with both cameras and tried to process them just in Lightroom with no special magic tricks or no Photoshop, just global adjustments, no local adjustments. And I just tried to visually match them. And as you can see, it's a pretty hard test because here you can actually vote. There's a little like which camera is from the M9, right? And
Which
you can
image
vote.
is from the M9?
Oh, which image is from the M9? Yeah. And I did a wide range of colors, etc. Oh, well, reds are never going to be produced by a CMOS like CCD. Well, I encourage you on your own time, take the test. This was part 1, which we went over basically head to head.
Yeah, let's not get dive into this too much. But there's 3 parts.
Right. And then
It's very comprehensive.
yeah, and then part 2 is, can you identify just from looking at the images what camera it's from?
Yeah, without a side by side.
Yeah.
So needless to say, we should read that. But let's get to some questions
Yeah,
about
check
the M9. Jose, what do you got for us?
Please talk about the pull ISO mode in the M9.
Oh,
Don't use it.
don't use it. Essentially, it's just underexposing and you're losing dynamic range, and it's not
By
a real
one stop.
It's not a real ISO setting. So on any camera made by any manufacturer, a pull setting is artificial. It's done through software.
Don't
It's
do it.
detrimental image quality. There's no upside.
Yep. Do not do it.
Good question though. Thank you for asking. Anything else?
That's it for now.
Okay, cool. We're making good progress.
We're making great progress. So the M9, just
Hey, Gabe is
revelation.
here.
what's that?
Gabe is here.
Oh, hey,
Our colleague Gabe has joined the chat.
excellent.
We need to ask him questions because he is not actually working, but we'll still be happy to help you. Sorry, Gabe. You're throwing in the
So,
bus.
so some observations I made about the M9 versus the M8, M8.2, and this was actually one of the first cameras that I did a full in-depth review on. I was invited to come to Germany and review the M9, and it was a great honor. Very happy to do it. Met some great people. But basically, the M9 it's about a stop better in ISO performance than the M8. We didn't really talk kind of technical stuff, but I would say on the M8, I was comfortable going to 640 ISO. On the M9, about 1,000. I know that sounds so low by today's standards, but this was the time we lived in. So I'd say ISO 1,000 on here. And dynamic range was better by about a stop as well. So
Yeah. I'm going to give a couple of quick M9 buying it tips. Number 1, in my opinion, this is only my opinion, but somewhat qualified.
sure.
I would not buy any M9 with a non-replaced sensor unless it was extremely cheap or free. I would also not buy an M9 claiming it had a new sensor without one of 2 things. One, and ideally, is a copy of the service paperwork showing the sensor was replaced. Number 2 is there's one version of the M9 firmware that is unique to the new sensor, which is 1.204. So the thing is, if somebody updated it in those 5 years since, you're never going to know. But if the M9 has 1.204 on it, it has been updated as opposed to 1.202, which is not updated. But really, I would not buy, nor would I ever sell a Leica M9 without the service paperwork that shows the sensor was replaced by Leica customer care. And to me, that's it. Number 2, we'll get into this a little bit more, but you can check the shutter count on an M9. The number is not super relevant if it's under 50,000. I've never actually seen an M9 with more than 50,000 that we've sold. I've seen one in the store with like 60 something. They can still replace the shutters, so not a huge deal, but yeah, just ask for that paperwork if you're buying one. If the previous owner doesn't have it, see if they can track it down. If not, buy at your own risk because Leica cannot replace the sensor anymore. So, buying advice.
Okay.
Questions? No, nothing.
I don't know, everyone.
Sweet. Well, on the vein of the M9, we have the next model, which we forgot to talk about the last thing, which is colors.
We
M9
need to take a picture.
Oh, colors, picture.
No,
Okay,
picture.
Picture first. Well, we don't even know if this is working.
We think it's working.
The
'cause-
battery is not even. Okay, sorry. I'm not doing a good job as your battery.
Oh, and by the way, same battery type from the M8, 8.2, and M9.
Yes, same battery, the 14464 Leica battery.
Josh, can you repeat the firmware number?
1.204. 1.204 means you have a new CCD. But again, that's assuming the person who's had the sensor replaced never updated their firmware since then, which is unlikely.
Yeah, why don't we write it in the chat so people know what
Yeah,
that is?
1.204. Acceptable shutter count is, there is no acceptable shutter count. It depends on how
Does it work?
how cheap the camera is.
And does it work?
You know,
Okay.
yeah.
500th, right?
500th?
Yep, 500th. It's in the no SD card mode.
Oh, yeah, that was another. Yeah, I didn't actually bring any SD cards with me, so you got to just change that setting. The M8 or the M9 has a mode where it won't fire without a card in it, which is actually pretty cool. It's in there somewhere,
It is in here somewhere.
right? Are you
mhm.
missing it?
Mm-mm.
Is it in the set menu? I don't remember.
Oh yeah, there's this. Oh yeah, that.
No?
No, it's not there.
Give me it. That's hilarious.
been a while.
That's how long it is since we've used.
In
Right?
earnest, yeah. No, I don't see it.
Are we thinking of?
Yeah, I don't think it's in there.
Maybe it just didn't. It just didn't fire.
No,
Why am I
it says,
keep missing
it says
it?
no SD
Do
card.
you have an SD card somewhere? Aren't we
Yeah.
supposed to be like
Hey, Jose,
experts?
could you throw us the SD card out of the thing?
I love it.
Is that the 16 gig?
That's how you know we're human, is we do stupid stuff.
The
like
one
that.
out of the firmware update one we hang around. I think it's in the close-up camera.
Did I not bring any SD cards? Man, I was trying so hard to get all these cameras together that I failed. I'm okay with that though. I'm only human.
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh, look at that. Magic.
Look at that. Look at that. Thank you, Jose, for assisting
Is it
us.
going to work?
We're gonna find
Yeah,
out.
it's UHS 1. It may work.
Here we go. Let's just take a mulligan on that whole thing. Don't lose your faith in us. There we go.
Yay.
Now, after all that struggle,
And was there discrete mode?
I didn't put it in discrete mode. No, do it without it first.
This one may not actually have
It
discrete
does.
mode. Let's see.
Yeah, it has soft.
Oh,
as
right.
well.
It's under under
Keep
advanced,
going.
right?
Keep going.
Soft mode.
Ooh. Great. Do we have any idea of total production of M9s? We do know. Leica doesn't generally
There we go.
release
Standard.
their production numbers.
Oh, right. This actually went a little step further. I forgot about that. Let's get a close up here. And what's interesting is, so they went just from discrete. They actually do a soft mode.
There we go. Look at that. Beautiful close up right there.
Okay. So we've got a soft mode.
Fingerprint.
Thank you.
Did nothing.
A discrete mode and discrete and soft. Do you want to explain that, Josh?
Sure. So soft was actually, it would activate or fire the shutter with a half press instead of a full press. Discrete is the same as on the M8 where you would press the shutter and hold it and it wouldn't do the recocking of the shutter until you released it. Discrete and soft fires the shutter on a half press, then you fully press it to prevent the shutter from recocking and then release it to advance the shutter again. So let's do a standard here.
Yep. So we're going to do standard first. And what he's talking about with that soft mode is instead of fully depressing it where you push all the way down, you only have to half press and it would fire. So that allows you to just be very kind of delicate in terms of triggering the camera instead of stabbing at it. So you don't have that down motion.
Yeah.
Theoretically, you can handhold it slower. All right, so here we go. Let's come back to the wide shot. And we're going to do the old 500th of a second.
That's all you get.
Okay, that's standard.
I'm going to sell this camera. All
right, that's-
You're racking up the counts.
That's standard mode. And now soft sounds exactly the same. It's just a different trigger point for releasing the
You're
shutter.
killing me right now.
Okay, discrete. Here we go. And of course, when I let go, that's when it makes a sound.
Here we go.
And
No more shots for you.
no more shots for me.
That's all you get.
The 3-shot minimum.
That's right, 3-shot minimum or maximum.
Maximum.
So the M9 came in black paint, like the M8.2.
Yep.
And then a unique
And the same Vulcanite too.
colorway. That's for you, Gabe. I'm calling it a colorway, which is steel gray. Let me just hold up the steel gray here. Show the close-up
That was
shot.
new. And that's not an anodization. That is a paint.
Yeah, this is the only camera they've ever done in steel gray. I have no idea if they'll do it again. Probably not. It's quite unique. And again, of course, just to
It's very
show. So the black had the vulcanites like that. And the silver had the sort of sandpapery M8 leather body covering. So super cool. There we go. Doing a bad job. We should. Do you want to talk about Titan first? Or do you want to talk about M9P? Well, let's talk about M9P since we have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me take the. So
So I do want to say, just
yes,
to reiterate that's
Yes.
not an anodized finish, meaning that gray paint, there's brass underneath it. So as it wears on the edges, you will get brassing just like you do on the black. So it's kind of a unique, kind of like a silver and gold kind of aesthetic.
yeah. But the steel gray is unique, and again,
yeah.
it's the only one they ever did. I mean, there's plenty of black paint, plenty of silver chrome, black chrome,
But the controls are actually
in silver, which
yeah.
is cool. So what came after the M9, Mr. Farkas?
The M9P.
Let's grab an M9P. There you go. Got it?
Yeah,
We're not going to put a battery in this one because it's the same shutter as the M9.
it
so.
is. It is indeed.
What did they change on the M9P, David?
let's get our little close-up action.
There we go.
And there we go.
Nice.
Look at that. It's like live PowerPoint. Isn't that cool? Okay. So this is the M9P, and you can see they've gone. There is no red Leica dot here, just a screw. And we've got the classic Leica script like you'd have on an MP film camera, which is really cool. You've got the black paint on this particular one, but it also came in silver chrome. And we've got the Vulcanet, and we have the sapphire glass screen again. So the standard M9 didn't have the sapphire glass, but the M9P brought the sapphire glass back from the 8.2. And we still have the same control layout and all that. So basically, this one is more of a cosmetic upgrade, I'd say, but functionally...
Beautiful, though.
Yeah, but functionally, we've got the sapphire glass, we've got the black paint, and it's just with the white Leica script, and it's just a stunning camera. These actually have gotten a lot of love lately.
And they're also extremely hard to find.
Yes.
This one will be for sale tomorrow, actually, but no plug there. They also came in silver chrome, just like the M8 and the M8.2. So M9, black paint, steel gray. M9P, black paint, silver chrome. So an important distinction there. I'll give a close-up of that.
Yep, perfect.
So you can see, Jose keeps moving it on me. There we go. There
Nice.
is the gorgeous. Now, the silver chrome M9P is one of my favorites because I love the contrast of the black script writing on the silver top plate. I just think that looks really, really, really nice. So,
Wow.
M9P.
And unlike the M9 gray, where we had the sandpaper finish, that's also
Right, this is
the textured Vulcanet.
The textured Vulcanet, yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, so those are the M9Ps, black paint, silver chrome. Everything else the same. Not as many changes as the M8, M8.2,
Yeah.
but that was a good thing because the M9 was pretty impressive.
In
Now-
fact, if I remember correctly,
Yes.
there was a lot of internet activity on the Leica forum and elsewhere at that time for the M8 8.2. There was a large fan base and a large user base that was pretty active in telling Leica what they should do, because that doesn't exist today at
Yeah,
all.
not at all. No.
Nobody knows better than Leica.
That's right.
But what they did that's really fascinating to me. Stefan Daniel, who's the head of product management then and now, basically said that what's new in the M9? Well, they had 18 or 19 top items that they gleaned from the forums of what people wanted. And those are the changes they made in the M9. And that's, it's not a mystery. It's a successful camera because...
I'm just going to answer jokes and giggles. Great question. The script is engraved and then filled with paint. So if you rub your finger on it, you can feel, you can't see what I'm doing, but you can feel the engraving.
And
of the
that's
script
the
writing.
case on all Leica
Yeah.
cameras.
Yeah, they actually paint with like a little, there's videos online of how they paint the lettering.
It
It's
almost
amazing.
looks like a syringe.
Yeah, it's quite impressive.
Yeah. So basically, when you listen to your customers and you listen to your users and you give them what they want, they tend to buy the thing that you're making next.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
M9. Moving on.
Let's talk about
The M9
the next two
Titan,
things we don't have on the table, unfortunately.
But I've got a pretty slideshow.
But David has a cool slideshow. So let's do ME and then we'll do titanium. Let's do that. Right? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
ME.
Yeah. So the ME.
Although the ME came out
I know, but it's not a special.
M9 titanium.
Okay, let's go to titanium.
M9 titanium.
Well, no, because that segues better into the 240.
Okay, ME. ME. We're going out of order.
You can
just a
see we
little bit.
really planned this extremely well,
Yeah, we're-
coordinated. And
We're going to go out of order just for a second. Okay, so ME, the first one. And this is the ME 220.
Yes. There it is.
Okay? And this is was introduced in 2012 and went through 2015. So actually,
Why are you showing up in the corner?
I'm sorry?
Why aren't you not showing up in the corner over there?
There's no corner. There's no me.
Oh.
We don't do that.
Okay.
This is just a thing.
Okay.
All right. Now this, if you notice on the front, there's no frame line selector and there's no USB port. We didn't even bother showing you the USB port on the other cameras because don't use it. And this is, again, a new finish that they were experimenting with. So coming off of the steel gray M9, we have kind of an anthracite gray paint. Sort of like I like to describe it as like a battleship gray. It's like a bluish gray. It's pretty cool looking.
Yeah. Very flat, not a lot of gloss to it. No real texture, just a super smooth blue-gray paint.
And it's got those really sharp contrasting silver chrome controls. But again, no frame line lever. And this marks the very last of the production CCD M cameras. So this is the same 18 megapixel CCD sensor that's in the M9 and the M9P. But it's kind of a cool camera. And this existed alongside the M240 for a number of years, for 3 years actually, as a CCD alternative to the CMOS camera.
Yeah. So they coexisted for a little while. And it has the same vulcanite or leatherite covering as the original monochrome as well. So, kind of cool. What came after that?
Well, we didn't talk about the M9 monochrome.
No one cares about that. All right, let's talk about that now.
Well, first Titan. Oh no, you want to talk about the monochrome?
Right? We're doing great.
Okay.
We are crushing it right now. We're
All
a little rusty. Okay, took a few months off. Went to the
We didn't actually go anywhere.
It's true.
So let's talk about the first monochrome.
Yes.
Cue it up.
Because we're talking about CCD. They're
Oh no, I did that.
so coordinated.
No. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Here we go. There she is. The original.
Hey, listen, it's a live show. You get what you get.
The
right?
original M monochrome.
That's it. This is the OG MM. So what you got is the first Leica M monochrome, and it is Leica's first digital black and white camera. This was when it was announced in May of 2012. This was they're announcing what now?
Well, the funny thing is, this was when everybody was waiting. The M9 was current. Everybody was waiting for a successor, and they announced the camera. They said they were doing an announcement on May 10th.
Yes.
M10. So everyone thought it was going to be an M10.
Well, because the M9 was announced on September 9th.
Yes, I know. But no, it was not. It was the M monochrome.
Yes.
Which at first, I was here when this came out, and we're like, what?
Wait, what?
What? Why wouldn't I just convert?
Right. All you have to do is click black and white, right? I mean, digital, does it really matter?
Yeah.
Well, as it turns out, yes, it does. And we have many articles and multiple episodes on monochromes that you should definitely check out.
We're not going to spend too much time on that now.
But essentially, this was, again, a very important camera for Leica, a revelation in terms of image quality and what you could really accomplish by really thinking differently than the rest of the market. And it also happens to be a beautiful camera that is still in wide use today.
Yeah, these were black chrome. They also made a small amount in silver chrome relative to the black chrome. I don't even have one to show.
Let's go back to the close-up here.
So totally no engravings anywhere.
Right.
I mean, totally discreet. I mean, no filled engravings, just obviously serial number on it. And same shutter and sapphire glass and viewfinder, all that as the M9P. So it's basically an M9P with no lettering and a monochrome sensor. And what really...
And a more matte...
it's black chrome, right?
It's black chrome,
like the M8,
not...
Like the M8.
Right.
What really was so mind-blowing about this camera was the high ISO performance.
Oh my gosh.
Because you could shoot at ISO 10,000 comfortably, which in 2012 was...
That was kind of a big deal.
It was a big deal. I mean, it still is an impressive camera today. And again, that CCD look out of camera is unique. I say out of camera meaning you can replicate it with any other camera, but any other monochrome. It is a really unique place in Leica's history and had the same corrosion problem as the M9. So if you buy one, make sure that it has a new sensor like this one does, which will be for sale tomorrow. I can't help myself. I've been saving these, right?
Oh my gosh. He has been hoarding all of his cameras.
It's terrible. So, yeah, but we have not been answering questions. So, Jose.
Yeah, what do we got
fire
on
some stuff off
more
of it,
CCD
please.
stuff?
Yeah.
We're not that many yet, but I want to just clarify something here for Garth. He says that his M9 had the sensor replaced and has the 1.210 firmware. He just wants to make sure that's correct.
Well, so that's what's a little bit weird is Leica, when 1.202 was the current firmware for the M9, a camera with an upgraded sensor would have 1.204. But after they got past 1.204, which was 1.210, then all the cameras had 1.210, and you wouldn't know for sure. So unless it has 1.204 on it, you'll need the service paperwork to guarantee that it has a new sensor. So food for thought on that.
Other significant thing,
Yeah.
when this camera was introduced, the M monochrome, also referred to as the M9 monochrome. So that's kind of interchangeable. If you see people say M9 monochrome or M monochrome, that's this one. It was also introduced with this, which is the 50 millimeter Apo Summicron So this lens was announced at the exact same event in Berlin as this camera, which was also the first of the Das Wesentliche events that Leica still holds to this day. And that was talking about the essentials because, again, you have this very pure, very black and white digital essential kind of camera. So that led Leica down this path of achieving and striving for just the essentials.
Yes. So,
which brings us to...
It's hard to believe you can sum up the M monochrome in so few words, but...
We did.
It really is amazing.
Yeah. I have a full review on Red Dot Forum about it. Yeah. I've got comparison images up the wazoo.
The last CCD thing we're going to talk about is one we don't have here, unfortunately.
But we have slides.
Yes, which is the M9 Titanium, which was super cool. There it is. So that came out in 2010. And one of the sort of hallmark things was it came with a Summilux M35 1.4 FLE right after that lens came out at a time when they were extremely hard to get. So that made this even sweeter. And there were a few innovations that were incorporated here. Number one, the camera and the lens were manufactured from solid titanium, which is quite unusual. Leica's only done that a few times before. They made an M7 and they made an MP. They collaborated with Walter da Silva of Audi Design.
Yeah, you can see him right there.
There he is, to design this camera. Now, they made 500, and it brought two changes, one minor and one major, that really set the bar for future M's. What was the first one, the big one, David?
Well, the biggest one is the fact that this has LED illuminated frame lines. That's a big deal. Explain
further what that means in the sense of what did they do before and what do they do now?
Well, I'm just waiting for it to go to the
front. Oh, no, we can show. Why don't we show
let me show
on an M9?
Yeah. Let me just show this here. So this is an M9 and that's an M9 Titanium, and we'll cycle back to that in a second. Notice on a more traditional camera, here we go. Now you're going to find the same kind of orientation on an analog M. So over here you see this is your viewfinder window. That's where you're actually looking through. So your eye goes there, and you're looking straight through the optical viewfinder. Then you have this small window right here, which is the one that everybody covers up with their finger by accident, at least 20 times a day. And this is your rangefinder window. So the little gray patch in the middle of the viewfinder that when you turn the lens shifts back and forth so you achieve focus, that's this. That's the projected ghost image comes in through this viewfinder. And it works on a coincidence rangefinder system, which is just geometry. Now, this other window right here, you'll notice is sort of like a frosted, what is the word for this?
Well, it's a Fresnel, but...
Oh, it's like a lenticular Fresnel. That's what it is. So this is a lenticular Fresnel. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It basically diffuses the light, and this illuminates the frame lines that are projected in the viewfinder for the different focal lengths. Now, if we can jump back to the slides of the M9 Titanium, okay, you'll notice that there's a viewfinder window and a rangefinder window, but there's no illumination window, that lenticular Fresnel, because there's an internal LED illumination source. And on this camera, I think it was red. Only red, right?
Yes, it was red. It was super cool. Like
it
Terminator
was
stuff.
Yeah, it was like Terminator red. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So this was pretty cool, and it wasn't just a cosmetic upgrade. You'll notice that the machining and the actual construction is different than a standard M camera. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, the other small innovation was the finger loop, which of course they've incorporated on the grips. This camera actually had the finger loop built right into the body, or the port for the finger loop built right into the body.
And what was it missing? That other camera.
Strap lugs.
Yeah.
There were no strap lugs, so you had to use this crazy.
There's the finger loop right there.
Crazy single-sided strap contraption.
Yes.
This remains one of my favorite special editions. I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. You take off the base plate. It's made out of titanium. It's super light. If anyone in the chat has one of these, give me a shout, because if you ever want to get rid of it, I want it. I'm just saying. We should check the chat real quick, David, too, just to see if anything has popped up. Love the M9 Titan. Yeah, the hood is amazing. Yes. Johnny Ive did design one camera that they auctioned off for charity, which went for like $2 million.
Two. There's one in the Leica Museum.
Okay, well, that's the prototype.
They made a prototype, a production prototype, and then the one they auctioned for charity. For how much?
That was like $2 million or something.
It was
It
ridiculous.
was a lot. It was over $1 million. But that wasn't like a serial production or even a limited edition. It was basically a prototype and a one-off it was a charity collaboration. Anything other mind-boggling? I mean, good commentary. People are getting into
I'm
it.
just trying to like.
It's fun because if you bought an M10, that's your first digital M. That's awesome. But there's this whole back catalog that you may not be aware of that led to your M10 existing. For without the issues and the struggles that we've had,
The learning experience, the learning.
we wouldn't be where we are now,
challenges.
which is with these mind-bogglingly good cameras. So that is the end of the CCD portion of this episode. Are there any lingering?
Little intermission thing.
Don't do
No,
that.
no.
We don't have time for that. We take it way too long. It's already 9:15. Any lingering CCD or CCD-M questions that we want to fire off before we get into
I have
the
one.
next generation? Jose, what do you got?
I have an M monochrome CCD.
Cool.
Is it good upgrade to M10 monochrome, or should I keep my CCD monochrome?
Well,
It's a good question.
like we always say, it depends. If you're just looking for a performance improvement, yeah, there's nothing that the M10 monochrome does worse than the M9 monochrome or the M monochrome. But M9 monochromes sell for like a third of what or whatever of an M10. I mean, there's a big price difference. You have to buy a new battery and new memory cards, and you probably want to upgrade your lenses if they're older. Yeah, I mean, the M10 monochrome is amazing.
It's a beast.
I
We're
mean,
gonna get
it's
to that at
So
the end.
good, but it's also $8,000 something. So it just depends on your budget and your objectives. So,
But
that's kind
there's
of
no better low light camera.
yeah, it's as good as it gets for monochrome. Yeah,
I mean, the difference is.
and watch our monochrome video and look at
Oh, yeah, we talked
David's
about that,
monochrome red dot form articles. And there's a lot of data and
here. I'll-
resources out there for you to make
take a look at-
decision. Here we go.
Okay, so under field tests here, take a look at this article here, which is the black and white ISO showdown. This compares the 246 monochrome, which we haven't talked about, versus the M9 monochrome, versus an M240 converted. And then there's a newer version, which is this. And that compares the M10 monochrome versus the 246 versus the M10 versus the SL2. Now, you can just draw relative conclusions of, okay, how did the M9 monochrome compare to the 246 monochrome? And now how does the 246 monochrome compare to the M10 monochrome? And I think you'll see just generational improvements.
If you watch our buying and selling Leica video episode that we did a while back, I talk about how to check the shutter count on the M8 and the M9. I'm not going to show it again, but I'm just telling you
It's on that video.
it's there. It's timestamped as well. So if you go to the description of the buying and selling guide, you can find the timestamp for shutter count. So we do explain that on air just for
Because there's a super secret combination of button presses.
Yeah.
And if you just follow the directions, Josh walks you through in the close-up.
Yeah.
And you'll have the shutter count.
anything in the chat last minute. Jose, anything that we need to address before we move on?
All right. Just to clarify, the latest firmware for M9 monochrome is 1.0.22.
I'm reasonably sure. It's been a while since I've checked that.
think so?
But yeah. The thing is, you can go to Leica's website and check. Also, I do that frequently, but it sounds right.
Yeah, sounds right to
I
me.
should know that, but I don't. Oh, that's okay. Cool. All right, so that's the end of our CCD portion. Now, we're going to get to what, in my mind, is the most significant digital M, aside from the first one, which is the M240. We want to pull up...
Well, we learned our lesson. We got to get the close-up. before
yeah,
you
blah, 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 blah.
You want to show it? Or you want me to show it?
No, well, it's fine. You can show it. I'll talk about it. Oh, look at that sweet aftermarket body cam. Take that off, please. Take it off. Take out the body cam. It looks horrible. We put the lens on there, bro. There you go. Okay. Okay, so I will never forget when the M240 came out. This one has a very brassed baseplate.
Right. So we were talking about that black paint finish and what that brassing looks like. Well, that's what it looks like. It's actually kind of cool.
Yeah,
isn't
I
it?
like that. That's pretty nice.
This. You know what it is? It's like it tells a story.
Oh, that's an MP240 baseplate. That's hilarious. This is a store demo camera. That's probably why it's the wrong plate, because they're obviously the same body. We are pathetic. But that's
Right.
okay. So the M240 was, and still in my mind continues to be, a game changer. 24 megapixel CMOS sensor, which means we have live view. So
Yep.
for the first time on a digital M camera covered in fingerprints, you could see a real-time image through the lens, either on the screen or
So
using
you can see right there.
the EVF2 electronic viewfinder, which looks like that.
Yes, is there a battery in here or no?
There is a battery.
It is.
Yeah,
Yes.
Jose had this camera, so
So there. So live view.
yeah. This camera opened up possibilities like we've never seen, using R lenses, using vintage lenses that were way out of calibration, and using screw mount lenses, and using macro lenses, and using adapters and all kinds of crazy stuff, because you were no longer limited to just the rangefinder. And of course it was an excellent rangefinder. There's no doubt about it. And the image quality improvements were significant, especially high ISO performance. You can pick up an M240 9 years, almost 8.5 years since it was launched, meaning you can pick it up today, and it is a very usable, easy to understand camera that still holds up.
Now, remember that whole thing that we were going on about the M9 titanium? Well, what do you not see here? There is, okay, the bit of controversy that needs to be discussed. Couple things. One, this is just now an M. You'll notice it doesn't.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
The naming thing, yeah.
The naming thing was kind of a weird controversy. So it's just called the M. It's not an M10 as everyone was expecting. And in fact, it was kind of, I think we used to have fun with this when people are like, wait, but didn't I put my name down on the M10 list? It's like, yeah, but they didn't
No.
come out with it yet.
Sorry, bro.
Which is true. They didn't come out with the M10 until 2017.
That's right. Many years later. Yeah.
So this was the M, and they went to this type naming scheme. So this was a type TYP 240. The logic there was, at the time, I remember having these conversations like, why did you do this? The Germans and Leica said, well, of course, you don't buy a model number. When you go and get a Porsche, you get a 911. And a 911 is a 911 is a 911 is a 911.
Right.
But there are different types. There's a 996, a 991. So they were like, we want to be like Porsche. Unfortunately, that really was
We don't
confusing.
actually know if that's the reason they did it. We're just
That was actually the reason.
yeah.
they did it.
I don't want to speak for corporate, but yeah, it's effectively trying to be. I don't know. They're
Just
trying
an M. They wouldn't make it
trying to be
timeless.
cute.
Yeah.
But
And the other point of contention, if you
Yes.
go to the close up, was this:
yeah, the
monster red dot.
Yeah.
There's no clever name for this that I can think of, but it's just a big dot. You get over it.
They had no more frame line illumination window,
Right.
so they needed to cover that space with something.
With something, yeah.
There you go.
Well, also behind here is actually the rangefinder calibration.
Yes.
If you open that up. Now, you'll notice also that something else is missing on this camera. What do we lose here?
Well, they can't speak back to us, so.
No, I'm asking you.
Oh, that's it. The frame line preview lever has
Right.
been removed, so no longer. It basically, this was the first weather sealed digital M, the body, not the lens. So the USB port was removed, similar to what we saw in the ME, and the frame line preview lever was removed in an effort to seal the camera better against moisture and dust.
Mm-hmm.
So this was, and I still think is a camera that is so significant in Leica's history that if you're buying an M10 and you've never tried a 240 or you've never seen a 240, you really need to get your hands on it to understand where Leica started with this sort of super modern rangefinder versus the M9, which still felt a little archaic even in period in some ways. The 240 was a game changer, and now they've become pretty affordable, relatively speaking, under $3,000 for a nice 240, even one that's been CLA'd. Now, you cannot check the shutter count
Nope.
on an M240
And why is that, Josh?
or an M10 or any M
with
live view. Because every time you activate live view, either by pressing the live view button or using the advanced metering mode, you are effectively
you can hear it.
firing the shutter. So there is no true shutter count on the M240 because it's not just how many times you click the shutter button. It's how many times you activated live view, how many times you used advanced metering mode, how many times you used movie mode, because you could shoot video on the M240.
That was the other contention thing I was going to show here. We
Yeah.
go back to close up. Now, this is also the first digital M with this little button. This little silver button with an M label is the movie button. And a lot of people do not like this, or did not like it when it came out, because they would go to take a picture and they'd accidentally press this and get into movie mode.
Yeah.
And it's not even movie mode, it just starts recording a video.
Yeah.
One of the coolest ways of using this that I saw was like behind the scenes videos for photographers, like portrait photographers or anybody, is they would be shooting in using the rangefinder, but had it on movie, and they're recording, and it's picking up. There's actually microphone. There's a microphone right here on the top, so it's actually picking up their voice as they're shooting, and you can see them focusing because it's through the lens. They take a picture. The picture would actually show up in playback, and then it would go back to live view again, which is super cool. And it's the only M that you can do that with.
So that's one major thing. There's two significant features that the 240 series of cameras, meaning really I would say M, MP, and 246 monochrome, can do that even their successors cannot. One is video, M10, M10P. None of those cameras can shoot video.
Nope.
Number two is the use of the M multifunction hand grip, which I have floating around here. So this hand grip only works on, or only has its full functionality on the M, MP, and M246 monochrome. And this gave you two features that you cannot have on any of the newer models. One is the ability to shoot tethered. There is a USB port.
We'll get a close up there.
Can we get close up? There we go.
There we
It's
go.
actually missing its rubber cover. That's typical. There is a USB port here. You can actually shoot tethered and also have AC power, as well as this flash adapter to use like large off-camera flashes. And the grip also incorporated integrated GPS, so you could geotag your images.
Right, and that's actually in this little nub
Yeah,
up here.
right there. So the M240 and the MP and the monochrome 246 not only allowed you to shoot video, and are the only digital rangefinders to let you do that, they are compatible with the multifunction grip, which has tethering and GPS. So if you have to shoot tethered,
I'll
if
show
you
it
need
on there.
GPS, you don't want to get an M10 unless you want to use Wi-Fi or some other workaround.
Yeah, and to put this on, just so you can see, you do have to take the bottom plate off, which I did while Josh was demonstrating. You've got to seat it on there properly with the little hole, and then kind of snug it in there and screw it down. That's it.
Here we go. So this gives you obviously a hand grip along with some additional functionality, a very unique accessory, which is why we're not really talking about accessories, but because this is a type of functionality you don't have on any of the other M's, I wanted to mention it.
It is very cool.
Yeah, and they were very expensive when they're new, like $900, but pre-owned they're like $300. So
And it does give you access to what was introduced on the M9 Titanium, which is that
the
finger
finger
loop.
loop.
Yeah. So this is pretty cool, and it provides a really nice balance for the camera.
Oh, and it does have frame lines calibrated for 1 meter, which
1 meter.
starting with the M9, they're all 1 meter. Just that's it. So we're not going to keep mentioning it because you can just assume it's a meter.
Yep.
So
And
that
it-
is.
And this has a different shutter mechanism.
Oh, so we got to fire the picture, 500th of a second, the rule.
Now you'll notice something different about the sound. If you guys hear the sound, let's see. Here we go. There's only one sound. There's just a click. There's no whir, because they were able to basically get rid of that separate recocking mechanism. It's much faster too. This camera will shoot, I believe, 5 frames per second in full burst.
Yeah, this was, I mean, it's still very usable. I cannot emphasize that enough.
It's a modern camera.
It's very stable. It's very easy to get serviced. There's all the parts are still available as far as I know.
There's no sensor corrosion.
There's no sense of corrosion. There's
no
no
infrared.
infrared problems. They had an early issue with the strap plugs falling off. If I recall, that lasted about a month. It was just from one small batch. But I promise you, otherwise, they worked fantastically well. We see them come and go all the time. We still have this is our demo camera. We still use it. Jose just had it. For
I
a few
shoot all the
days.
time. I love it.
What
Yeah.
did you think, Jose? Having shot with the M10 and then this 240 now.
They're different, but I don't know. There's something about the 240 that I like. It's
And you can see,
and I can shoot videos. So.
Well, here's one of the cool things as well. Is this was also the only I'm pointing like you can see.
Yep.
The only camera you could change the color of the frame lines from white to red. So if you go to frame line color, I wish they still had this on the 240. Maybe they just felt it was extraneous, but
it is very cool.
another M9 titanium functionality was pretty cool. So
Yeah, so the screen is obviously larger here. We've moved to a 3-inch, modern LCD,
Yeah.
which is again a
Yeah.
big change. There's also, I don't know if you can see it. You see that little dot right between the engravings there? That is an ambient light sensor. So the screen also you can see that it has automatic brightness control. So if I switch it to medium high. So under, let's go back to, no, that is not what I wanted to do.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
I know it's hard to do this backwards.
It is hard to do this
I feel
backwards.
for you.
Okay, so if I cover this up, please cover. Okay.
I don't know if they're going to be able to see.
Yeah, so you can see it's dimmer now.
Okay.
And if I take my hand off, it automatically changes the brightness.
Look at that.
So that was also a new feature introduced on the 240 generation. And this was the first camera to incorporate Leica's in-house, well, they didn't make the chip. It's unique and exclusive to Leica. That's the Maestro processor. So this has an original Maestro 1 processor in it, which was the same at the time that was in the Leica S2. So this was a sensor created for big file, medium format cameras, and then putting it into the small camera with much smaller files. That's why the camera is so fast and responsive. So playback, 5 frames a second shooting.
Yeah, and the zoom speed, everything was just very snappy.
Because of that processor.
Yeah.
And then they also, this is in-house firmware development, so they're able to roll out firmware changes a lot quicker. This camera definitely had a lot of updates through the years. And it's also one of the longest lasting in the lineup. This was 2012 all the way through 2017. This was a 5-year run on the M240, and for good reason. I mean, probably of all the M cameras, all the digital M cameras, I probably shot most with the M240 out of everything. And maybe it's because it was around for the longest, but fantastic camera. And one of the things I felt that it did much better than the CCD models is in terms of handling artificial light and mixed lighting scenarios. So, tungsten and fluorescent and daylight all mixing together. An auto white balance, for whatever reason, the 240 just would nail it.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason they're still very popular, but I think we need to go to the next one because we're spending a lot of time on the 240.
It's great. It's a great camera.
Big fan.
Just
like the M9 had the M9P, the 240 had the MP. Oh, did I talk about colors? Well, black paint and silver chrome for the 240. Sorry. The 240 had the MP 240, which also came in black paint, so the silver one, and silver chrome, which David is going to show you the beautiful silver.
Do you have a silver lens for me?
I do have a silver lens for you. Hold on. I will give you this lovely 50 lux spheric that is missing its red dot because you beat everything up that we have.
I'm sorry, did you say something? Oh, this is a clever little thing. Just get a regular close up on this. I just want to show kind of the crazy thinking at the time. So you see how it's a full metal plate like all the cameras, and it's got this weird little outline here, and on the other side, it's plastic. Why in the world did they put a little plastic cutout on the base plate? Well, it's kind of an interesting story here. You have to go back 8 years, but do you guys remember Wi-Fi SD cards? Well, they were a thing. So if you wanted Wi-Fi enabled shooting, they couldn't go through the brass bottom plate. So Leica actually engineered a little plastic cutout here so the Wi-Fi signals could go through the plate. If you ever wondered what that is. And then the other little thing here is a security measure. So if you ever wonder how the camera knows the base plate's removed, that little dot there is a magnet. And it has a sensor in the camera to know if its base plate's on or off. All right.
Sweet. So we're getting away from our
I know, too many information.
topic. Where's our slide? Where's our slide for the MP240?
Well, I got to do the shutter sound.
Oh, we're doing that first now? We're so out of order. It's okay.
Oh, no, we're going to do the slide because it's MP240.
Yeah, it's the same shutter.
Yeah, okay, let's.
Hooray! We got it.
It looks very pretty, by the way. You'll notice no red Leica dot. It's got the matching case color screw there. And we've got the engraving. So on the silver model, we've got the black filled Leica script. And on the black model, we'd have white filled engravings there. And it definitely looks good. The silver looks amazing with a silver chrome lens. No doubt. No doubt. Okay, so what are the big changes here from a regular 240? This was introduced in 2014, which was 2 years after the introduction of...
A little soft there. Pull it back. Or forward.
That's good.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. 2 years after the introduction of the 240. So what's changed here? Well, same 24 megapixel CMOS sensor. It now has a sapphire glass LCD. Remember that from the M9P. So except this is a 3-inch sapphire. And at the time, like I said, this was the largest sapphire glass in production ever made for this camera, because it was 3 inches and no one's ever made them that big. And it has now, they brought back the frame line preview lever, which is missing on the M240. And fundamentally, also, remember I said the camera shoots at 5 frames a second. The problem is it would hit the buffer pretty quickly because, and I'll just set that down. So the M240 has a 1 gigabyte buffer, and it filled up pretty quickly. So they upped it to a 2 gigabyte frame buffer on the MP240. So basically, we got the frame line preview lever, the sapphire glass screen, the 2 gigabyte buffer, and the styling, and you have an MP240, which is, I think, it's sort of the ultimate of the 240 if you're looking for a color camera.
I say, yeah, the MP is, I mean, they're priced higher pre-owned than an M240, obviously, but they're really, really nice, and they're newer, of course, than an M240, and rarer. They made them for less time. Yeah, I'm a fan. I think in this case, I prefer the black. I like the silver M9P, but I like the black MP240 a lot. I like the black paint look on that camera.
It is nice.
And yeah, really, really nice. Sweet.
Wow. Okay.
We're making good progress here.
We're cooking,
although it's
man.
getting kind of sort of late, but we're doing okay.
We have a question there in the chat.
Yes.
The hand grip does not work with the ME240,
Correct.
even though this camera has all the same hardware to work in theory with this grip. Why was this excluded?
Well, we don't know if it has the same hardware, right? I don't know what's inside the ME240, so I can't say. I can just tell you that the multifunction grip doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I said if you want GPS tethering, all those features from the multifunction grip, M240, MP240.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get an ME240. Apparently, we are like 2 months off has made us quite rusty. I think our frame line distance optimization specs are wrong. I think
How's that?
I'm pretty sure now that I'm thinking about it and some comments,
Was it 1.5 meters?
M240 is 2 meters.
No. No. It might be 1.5. It's
Yeah.
definitely not 2.
I would say if Sean Reed, if you're watching this, you'd say something because he spent so much time testing this stuff. I think, well, obviously I'm gonna have to make sure I look this up because I don't want to give anyone the wrong information because we're only human and we're not.
I could probably read my review.
We make mistakes, and I'm okay with that. I just want to make sure that we correct our mistakes.
Yeah.
I think what that actually shows you is that practically that information is not terribly relevant. I'm not saying it's not important.
It was very relevant 15 years ago.
Don't misunderstand. But I mean, I don't think about it anymore because it's so minor, but I still want to give the right information.
Sure.
So the next time I go on a long rant, just download the specs and
I'll get
don't. I want to be right. I have no shame in correcting my mistakes, believe me. So we'll figure that out. I do apologize. Mm-hmm. As you can probably tell, we're kind of all over the place. We're having a good time. This is a topic we're both really into. So forgive us. I promise you, 2 weeks from now, we'll be 100% and we'll be crushing it. I'll probably shave, it's going to be great.
Oh, this one also, we didn't talk about one other thing on this camera.
Yes.
Which is right here. And I want to just point this out real quick. And then we will proceed. So see this little other dot. Obviously, we can see that there's no frame line illumination window anymore. That's the thing of the past. But you do have this little circular dot here, little opening. And what that is a secondary light meter. If you ever wonder, and a lot of people do wonder about this, so in Lightroom, when you pull up your picture and it says 1/250th of a second at f8, ISO 400, how does it know what the aperture is when there's no electronic connection on the back of the lens and the aperture is fully mechanical? Well, it uses some good guessing. So it's got that secondary meter and basically knows your shutter speed and it knows your ISO. And it knows the amount of light that it's catching into this incident meter on the front. It basically does a best guess in terms of what the aperture would be for that meter reading, and then compares it against the actual picture. So it's an estimate. It's not always accurate, especially when you have very dappled lighting or very high contrast scene, it may not be as accurate as you want it to be. And that's just the nature of what the meter is seeing at that time versus your in-camera metering.
And I've been confirming the tech specs. So we were wrong. I do apologize.
Was it 1.5?
M9, M9P, ME, 1 meter.
Okay.
M240 and newer, 2 meters.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
That's, yeah. So
Wow.
I'm going to make sure I get the record straight. Correct my mistake. Do apologize.
Now, what about the M10?
2 meters.
Still.
Yeah, I have a Dropbox folder where I downloaded all the specs so that inevitably when I made a mistake, I could look it up.
Wow.
That's why I'm looking at my phone right now because I downloaded all of them in a big old folder. Yeah, so sorry about that. M240, M10, 2 meters. M9, 1 meter. Hopefully that's...
Now, what that means practically, just now 2 meters. Well, also the M8.2 then wasn't 2 meters.
M8.2 was... No, M8.2...
Was it 2 meters?
You're making me doubt myself now.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Here we go. M8... They didn't format their tech specs nearly as nicely.
Back then?
Yeah, M8.2 is 2 meters. So M8,
Okay.
0.7 meters. M8.2, 2 meters. M9, 1 meter. M240, M10, 2 meters.
2 meters. Cool.
Setting the record straight.
Setting the record.
Sorry.
Record is straight.
I shouldn't have so much beer. Nope. What?
Record straight. So what that means practically is that if you are focusing something at 0.7 meters, you're not going to get more of it. You're actually going to get less than what you see.
On a 2 meter calibrated camera.
On a 2 meter calibrated camera,
Yes.
at minimum distance, you're going to get a little bit less than what you are seeing in the frame lines. So that is totally normal. Don't freak out about it.
Somebody asked the button, of the button above the lens release button. I'm going to show them what that does on the MP240.
This one?
Or I can show them. Yeah. Can we get a close up, Jose? No, the front.
Oh, this?
Yeah,
I forgot about
that button
Yep.
serves
That's focus aid.
2 functions. Number 1, that brings up the focus aid, manual focus aid, which is peaking and or magnification, depending on how you have it set in live view. That also is how you access the bulb shutter speeds. You press and hold that button in bulb mode, and you get shutter speeds longer than what's on the top dial. So that's what that button does. The same thing on the M10.
You have to hold here and then turn.
We'll show them on the screen. Can you turn it on so they can see? I think we probably talked about this on the M10. There's no battery. Sorry, I'm screwing them up.
Also, because of live view, it went to a much larger battery on the 240. She hungry. All right. Here we go.
And again, you can check the shutter count on this. M8, M9, and the M9 monochrome
Okay,
are the
so-
only cameras you can check the shutter count on. That's it. Stop asking me.
Okay. So here we are. We are in bulb.
Yes.
Okay. I am going to push this button on the front. I'm going to hold it in with backwards with my thumb since I'm showing you guys. And you can see set the exposure time.
Oh, you must be on a high ISO. Yeah, around 1600. You got to go to like ISO 100.
Man. All
I
right.
know, right?
I know.
So you're falling apart.
I didn't set this camera. All right.
There we go. Press and hold.
Press and hold, and
There it is.
Okay. And now we can set this all the way to 60 seconds.
M10 does the same thing, so just be aware of that.
That is a secret of the pros right there.
That's right.
All right.
Sweet.
So now you know.
So we got to talk about another big milestone after the MP240.
Yeah.
I'll take care of this. Why don't you
Thank
take the next big, where's the 246 monochrome? I'm hiding it from you.
There you go. All the way away from there.
That's right.
Should I panda it? Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
We'll panda it.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Black and white.
I like it. I like it.
We're going with the theme here.
So the next major milestone after the MP240 is the M monochrome 246.
Can I have that lens cloth?
The successor, no, that's...
Oh, that's on the
I
screen.
think somebody messed this camera up pretty good, but I didn't realize till I grabbed it, so
Whoopsie.
sorry.
Okay.
Demo camera. Yeah, they get used. That's what they're made for. It's okay. And just like fingerprints all over here.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I'm sorry, Julie. I'm sorry. All right.
Oh, and there's one on top of the
Oh
camera.
my goodness. We use these cameras, okay? Leave us alone.
Okay.
All right.
So there we go. So that is the M monochrome 246, also colloquially known as the M246 or the MM246 for M monochrome type 246. And it is basically based on the functionality of and features of the M9P that we just talked about.
No, the MP240.
I'm sorry, not the M9P, the MP240 that we just talked about.
Crushing it.
So it has the same 24 megapixel CMOS sensor that's in the MP240 and the M240, but is converted only to black and white. It has the same 2 gigabyte buffer. It's got the same sapphire glass screen, although this one, I don't even know what happened here.
It must have gotten wet or something. I don't know.
And yeah, this was introduced in May of 2015 and went all the way through actually to this year.
Yeah, just in January. And one of the cool things about the 246 is if you look at any of David's comparisons, and including his most recent one, high ISO on a 246 is pretty much as good as or slightly better than an M10.
Yes, it is.
Converted to black and white. That's how good this 5-year-old camera is still today. And of course, it's the only way to shoot monochrome video.
Yes.
I mean, dedicated monochrome video.
Dedicated monochrome video with this little button here. What I was saying earlier is Leica listened. A lot of people were hitting that by accident. So they actually updated the firmware. Now you can choose to disable that button. So it won't activate movies. If you just turn movie mode off and it won't do it anymore.
246 was amazing.
Yeah.
More dynamic range, way better high ISO performance than the M monochrome, the original M monochrome or the
Just
M9.
just to clarify one thing,
Yes.
sorry guys. Can you do that on the Type 240 as well? Deactivating the video?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
They had firmware with that, yeah.
Yes.
There was firmware for the entire generation, M, MP, MM, and also ME240, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
So that was all changed across the board. And we have firmware articles on Red Dot Forum about that.
Yeah. So 246 monochrome, the second generation monochrome camera, clearly demonstrating that the first one was successful. In fact, far more successful than I think anyone imagined.
Sure.
Only made in black chrome, aside from special editions, but unlike the original monochrome, which came in black and silver, or silver, 246 only came production in black chrome. Now, there were, what? Yeah, we're talking about a rangefinder. Q2 monochrome does the video. We mean rangefinder video.
Through M lenses.
Yes, sorry. Thank you though. Excellent clarification. A lot of special editions of the 246, and as it so happens, I think one of Leica's most distinctive special editions that they've ever made was a variant of the 246 monochrome that was not only extremely rare, but limited to the US market only. And one of the things we like to do on the show, if you've seen it, is show really cool special editions. So I've actually brought one, I have a few, but I brought one of my favorites, which I actually have in this secret box.
Oh, I love boxes.
Yeah, this is the special box. Now, in order to properly demonstrate, I do need to don my pair of white gloves to avoid staining this beautiful machine with my grossness. Here we go.
We don't want grossness.
All right, so here we go.
Dun, 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 dun.
And
Oh, bring it forward in the close-up there.
this. Oh, I'm gonna drop it.
Oh, you are going to drop it. Don't drop it.
This is the Jim Marshall monochrome 246. Now, there we go. I can't tell my focus. So just,
Well, you stay put.
You're good.
Yeah, you're good.
There we go.
Yeah, nice.
So, this was a monochrome Type 246 with a Summilux M 50 millimeter 1.4, all in solid brass, unpainted. No paint. This isn't a special color. This is what it looks like when your camera loses all of its paint. And this paid homage to Jim Marshall, who was a very, very well-known rock and roll photographer who used his cameras to the point where they would look like this.
Yep.
So we can get back to the close-up here. I'm just going to keep my camera static and let Jose navigate to myself here.
We're going to try.
There you go. There we
Nice.
go. Okay. You'll notice that even the body cap is brass. The base plate is brass. All brass. And now this will patina over time. It actually has Jim's signature engraved on it. And you can see this is number 31 out of 50 right there. I'll show you the lens. I'll keep the close up here. So, okay. This is a Summilux M. This is actually the same barrel as the 51.4 black chrome that you can buy today, which is brass. This is just what it would look like if all the paint went away. So this set, again, one of only 50, only sold in the US. It came with a limited edition book and print that were both numbered to match the camera. And this kind of represents...
And the special strap as well.
And the special strap. This kind of represents Leica's sort of recognition, not just of like fun, quirky stuff, but also of real photographers who really used the gear. You know, they worked closely with the Jim Marshall estate to get this camera put out. And I remember when this came out, you know, how shocking it was to see a solid brass camera. So this, something interesting. And the reason I'm not touching it with my hands is because this camera is actually for sale. So I don't want to maul it. I will let the next person get their patina all over it. But anyway, that is...
That sounds like a euphemism.
It's not. That is that is the Jim Marshall monochrome Type 246, number 31 of 50 in the US.
And if you are interested in taking an even closer look, I actually did a full unboxing video when it was first released.
Oh, I do have
Reddit.
another special edition monochrome. I'll show this one quick. I've actually showed this one on the show before.
But wait, there's more.
This is I won't spend as much time on, but another really cool one.
Same box.
Same box.
Yeah.
This is the Andy Summers monochrome. And what's unique about this one is that it is in black paint. So we've talked
Black
about...
lacquer, right?
Yes, this is actually black lacquer like an MP. I don't know if Jose can actually get focus on that or not. I will let him try while I'll talk about it. So this was another collaboration with...
There you go.
There we go, with Andy Summers, who I think he was the drummer from the Police, right?
Yeah, that's
I
right.
should know this, I don't. This comes with a black paint 35 Summachronospheric and a black paint 246. I'll show it real quick, just because it is cool. There we go. Focus, 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 focus. Oh. Also had the signature on the top, which I kind of like that continuity between this and the Marshall. And it has Andy's photographs actually wrapping the camera body. And then the lens is a black paint 35 Summachronospheric.
So pretty.
Super, super cool. There it is.
With red.
So anyway, just two really cool special editions. One, Andy Summers, the other, Jim Marshall. So this is part of the fun of getting into Leica is you get some wacky, crazy special editions.
Oh, guitar player.
We didn't actually show this MP240.
Oh, yeah. We should show that too.
Since we're on the subject of special editions, this is a very, very well-worn, I'll let David show this,
Okay.
MP240 Safari Edition, which came out, I don't know, I think about in 2015 or 14 or something. Kind of continuing Leica's tradition of this sort of olive green safari.
Gone back since the 1960s, I think, right?
Yeah.
All right. Where do we got?
Peter, the guitar player? Sorry.
Guitar player.
I don't know anything.
Whatever.
This is a
Guitar,
very
drums.
well-used MP240 Safari Edition. This came new with 35 Summachron Silver Chrome. There's even gaff tape on it.
Oh, wow.
Look at that. I left it on there because I want people to see that special editions aren't just for shelves. They are designed to be used. You can see what it looks like when it gets used.
I gotta say, that is some beautiful patina.
This is real patina. This is really used, and I love that. I think it's gorgeous.
I think that looks awesome.
Yeah. So
Because
just have
you know
more
what?
fun.
You can tell that the camera lived a life. You
Yeah.
know? It's been some places. It's
focus.
done some stuff.
You're soft there. There we go.
Yeah.
There you go. Anyway, just geek out on over cool stuff.
Yeah, this looks...
Yeah, they also made the Yormark monochrome 246 in black paint. I just don't have one. So, yeah, I know it's not the only one that's black paint. But this is the only MP that they made in Safari. They did an M8 Safari or an M8.2
cool,
and
though.
an M10P Safari, which we'll get to if we ever
very
have,
cool.
If we have time, because we're running out of time.
Yep. There's also some Safari lenses that you can get.
Yeah, 50, 2890 Safari as well.
But it's not about lenses. We're not talking
Not
about
talking
lenses.
about lenses.
No, lenses.
Okay.
La, 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 la.
Man, we are way behind. I mean, I wonder if we should just like...
Yeah, but all we have left is...
We have 262, two 262s, M10, M10P, M10R, M10D, M10 monochrome.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Well, what
There's
do
no
you guys
way.
think? Should we come back?
Yeah.
Should we come back
'Cause there's
and
already-
do a part 2 for you?
Almost 10 o'clock Eastern, and we still
Or do you
have...
want us to like rush through?
No, we shouldn't rush through. We should
Take some questions.
stop
Yep.
and take questions.
Yep.
And then we'll pick it up. I don't
Sure.
want to rush through. That's a disservice.
No.
We spent way too much time correcting our mistakes. Anyway, so somebody asked about, I think I saw somewhere, there was an upgrade program for both the M8 and the M9
True.
where you could take an M8 and turn it into effectively an M8.2 and an M9 into an M9P. Those cameras now are pretty rare. They're not really worth more than their upgraded equivalent. In fact, less, because it's still at its heart.
And they're usually, those are referred to as like MAU. You'll see that in the title. So if anyone's listing an MAU.
Before we I should skip ahead if we're talking about special editions, because I have it here.
Oh, wow. Part two.
Yeah, but I do want to show one more cool special edition before we go. I promised a surprise. I know we're skipping ahead, so I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Way ahead.
But it's okay because it's here. And
white gloves?
I am going to get the white gloves. This came out just last week. And we are fortunate enough to have one. I am hoarding this forever. No one will ever see it again. Again, I know I'm skipping ahead, but I'll probably want to have it handy next week or 2 weeks from now. So,
Get it while it's good, right?
here we go. This is the new, Jose, you want to just kind of frame up to me here? Thank you. M10P Reporter, which just came out on Thursday. Look at that. So, this has this sort of durable, they call it scratch resistant green finish.
I'm going to hold just a regular Safari next to it.
With the Kevlar body cladding.
Because it is a different color.
I can hold it both.
Here.
So there is an M10P Safari in the back, and I'm trying to catch the light just right, and the M10P Reporter, slightly different green, of course, different body covering, and what's really cool is, unlike the Safari, no top plate engravings on the Reporter. Accents are all in black, and there's no red lettering. All of the white lettering is actually like a pale green. It's hard to tell on the live stream, but it's almost like a loomed watch hand, watch face.
Yeah.
This is gorgeous. They're only making 450 of these. I'm sure they're all sold out at this point. I don't actually know because Leica dribbles stuff out, but absolutely gorgeous.
You talked about the covering there?
Yeah, it's a Kevlar. I don't know if it's like a Kevlar composite or what it is exactly.
Kevlar diamond weave.
It is amazing. I'll show you the back. So again, all black accents, minimal engravings, and all the engravings are actually like a pale green. So again, this is the new M10P Reporter, just kind of sticking with the theme of special editions. There we go. Look at that. That is stunning. So again, I just want to show it one more time compared to the Safari. Jose, can you refocus? I don't want to like knock them into each other because they're both supposed to be kept perfect. How we doing here? And
sorry guys, there's an app for that, but it's not always super fast.
There we go. Look at that. Look at that. I just want to show the subtle differences in between the two. There we go. Sweet. Anyway, I'm done geeking out on our special editions. I promise you, we are going to take some questions.
The gloves are coming off.
Literally. While I put this back together, David, why don't you take a few questions?
What do we got, guys?
What are the 3 dots on the back of the MP240, and why did the Safari guy cover them with tape?
That's the speaker.
It's a speaker. Yeah, so this is, because it's for movies, right? So if you want to swing over to me, I'll just show that real quick.
And Safari Girl, by the way, was the person who owned this previously, not a guy. That's Safari.
Okay, so
there we go. Pardon me, plastic crinkling noise.
Okay, so right here, this is the microphone, the 4 little dots. And yes, this is also weather sealed. It's just a membrane through there. So you see that there. So the 4 dots, that's the microphone. And then of course, if you're playing back video files, like I said, well, you need a speaker. So that's actually the speaker cutout. And again, it has a water resistant membrane there underneath that. So that is what those dots are.
There you go. Man, we've been covering a lot of ground. I'm glad we're splitting it into 2. I think everyone agrees that a part 2 is appropriate. So
yeah.
Jose, what have we missed? Questions about what we've covered?
Yeah.
When selecting the ISO setting on the recent end cameras, should we select the typical film ISO, 80 for color and 25 or 400 for black and white? Or is auto so good we should set it and forget it?
Yeah, I mean, we covered this in our
But we can rehash quickly.
episode. But yeah, it's so good. It depends on which generation we're looking at. But I think that auto ISO is an amazing tool now. When even, let's talk about cameras that we already covered. On the M240, which I think is a great, especially if someone doesn't have a digital M and they're not sure it's for them and they don't want to get into an M10, a used M240 is usually the place I tell people to start out because it represents an insane value and it's so capable. So this camera, I am more than comfortable. I am happy with the quality I get at ISO 3200, up to ISO 3200. It's actually pretty impressive. So letting my auto ISO go from anywhere from the base of 200 all the way up to 3200, it's fine. It's always going to choose the lowest one possible to give you the highest shutter speed that you've asked for. So if you set it for a minimum shutter speed of 1/25th of a second, it's not going to just ramp you up to 3200 if you're in bright sun, where you're shooting at 500th of a second at f8. It doesn't need to. It can be a low ISO. But then it's flexible enough that if you duck into a dimly lit space and you forget to change your ISO, it changes it for you. So it puts it up to 3200. You can open up your aperture and you're going to be shooting at 125th because, Josh, what do you rather have?
I will always, always, always take a photo with a little bit more grain than a blurry one, because everybody knows that when a photo is blurry, they know that.
Yep.
Most people, a little bit of extra grain, they don't even think about it.
Character.
And I'll say it every single episode.
I know. I'm
stuck in everybody's head.
gonna prompt you.
Oh, the other thing that we forgot to talk about is we're always having a good time with Red Dot Wear, which is like our in-house sort of apparel accessories brand.
Swag.
We've done hats. I wore the beanie in the last episode.
You did?
We have a new addition to the Red Dot Wear family, designed by Kirsten, of course, and Gabe, I think, also helped, which is our Red Dot Wear, get a close-up, face mask. This is has a filter pocket. It actually comes with a filter.
It's like a carbon
in
filter.
a little
insert,
thingy.
right?
So, can we get a close-up? Yes, there it is. It's got the M10P sort of, yeah, there we go. Trying to get a good shot of it.
There you go. You got it.
M10P pattern on it. We got the little drawstrings. It's got a wire.
It's very
Super
smooth
nice.
and
yeah,
silky.
this is mine. This is the new Red Dot Wear face mask, the latest addition to the Red Dot Wear line of fun and cool accessories. It's even got Red Dot Wear tag on it. Look at that.
So fancy.
Nice work on this one, Kirsten. I would be doing you a disservice if I did not talk about it. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
So if you're gonna mask up in style.
That's right. What else have I missed? Oh my goodness, there's so much.
Blooper
There's a lot.
reel. Blooper reel.
Oh, the blooper reel. Tell them about the blooper reel. Well, Gabe, poor Gabriel, who's
Oh my God.
slaved away watching all of our stupid antics for 25
Oh my
episodes
gosh. Yes,
come
so-
together.
So Gabe is a hero. Okay, everyone give Gabe a shout out because he watched 50 hours of us
Ugh,
doing stupid
I
stuff
do not envy that.
and cut it all together in a very hilarious, at least to us, and somewhat embarrassing moments. So everything not related to actually talking about cameras, but all of our goofiness and silliness and quirks and dropping and whatever.
All the things. All the things.
So he put it all there for posterity, so we can never forget it. So definitely want you guys check that out. We put it out in the hiatus between our last episode and this episode, but it's right on the channel on Red Dot Forum. So you definitely should check that out and let us know what you thought your favorite, most embarrassing moment was in the blooper reel.
Yeah, I think that. Now, continue to add questions in the comments. Do you want us to, because we're going to check the comments here for our next part 2 of Digital M's, because we definitely want to get to everyone's questions. Whew, it's good to be back. Okay, he's the guitarist in the Police. I'm sorry. I like classic rock, but I'm just not a huge fan of the Police. Don't kill me.
All right, I am looking. Yeah, so I see some M10 questions. We'll address
We're going to
next
talk
time.
about, just real quick, ME240, M262, MD262, M10,
Edition 60.
M Edition 60, M10, M10P, M10R, M10 monochrome. All of that we're going to cover in our next episode. We've got all the goodies here, so stay tuned for that.
We can answer some of these questions.
Yeah, fire off a couple.
So M240 did the M240 go to a 0.85 rangefinder?
No,
No.
they've all been 0.68 that we've talked about, though that will change next episode.
Yep. Let's see. Special editions are hit or miss. So actually, it's kind of unfortunate. We were talking about this. As many cameras as you see on the table, Leica had maybe 50% more than this.
Yeah, I have a list. I literally wrote this list, which you can't see here, but it's all the special editions, like 30-something special editions.
And a lot of them are ridiculously cool.
So cool. And there's something for everyone.
Yeah.
Budget aside.
I mean, like the MA2 White or the Neiman Marcus. I mean, there's all these really cool, very limited editions, which I think as we showed off that, like that Safari, they're not just meant to be baby. These are people's everyday cameras. They just wanted a different look and something special and unique. And, it's going to live a life just like a regular camera. Takes the same quality pictures as the regular camera, but it is kind of special and cool. It doesn't just have to be, about, whatever. I know there's kind of a stigma with these limited editions, but when you actually have them and you hold them and you there's kind of a wow factor there.
Yeah. I mean, that Jim Marshall, every time I look at it, I get goosebumps. It's amazing to see in person. It's really something.
Did Leica have a formula or something for determining the type numbers? Not really, no.
Not that we know about. It seems pretty random. SL601, Q116. I don't know. The 240 kind of made sense because it was 24 megapixels. But like something like Mercedes where they have like the CL55 because it was 5.5 liters. And they don't even do that anymore. Now it's whatever.
So Josh, I'll ask you this. One thing that wasn't mentioned, sorry about that, is the fact that the light meter in the M8, especially in low light, was pretty abysmal. Next one I tried was the M9P and it was much better. M10's supposed to be good.
Yeah, that's one of the things that they improved for sure. And the M8 being the very first.
And auto white balance too, same thing.
Yeah, they added a lot. So I'm not telling you the M8 does everything as good as an M10. I mean, it's a 15-year difference, or 12 years, I guess. But, it has its place. I think we need to stop before we're here all night.
Probably. I'm just seeing if there's anything we missed that
I'm sure there is.
With that generation.
But it is after 10. Thank you for
hanging with us, guys.
Sticking it out with us because we obviously have a lot of questions and a lot to cover. So
fingerprints equal love. There you go.
That is true.
Cool. All right. I think we covered about as much as we're going to cover tonight.
And we'll watch the comments and talk about more next episode. Don't worry.
Yep. And remember, if you didn't get a chance to watch the video or you want to reference something, it's going to be archived in YouTube at full 4K. You can go back, and since we had the little title slides for the overlays for a lot of the cameras we talked about, you can kind of scroll through and find the one we're talking about that interests you and find the information. But if you have any other questions in the meantime that I can answer for you in text form before our next video, I'm happy to do so. Just drop it in the comments. Of course, we always appreciate a good like, so hit that thumbs up button. And be sure to subscribe to Red Dot Forum YouTube channel for more Red Dot Forum camera talk and other videos. You can check out reddotforum.com for news and firmware updates and all these reviews we talked about, all these resources. I'll do my best to drop some links in the description of specific things we spoke about, and you can always find them there. And thanks to Josh, as always, for his encyclopedic knowledge of Leica part numbers and lens caps.
Never ends.
Never ends. Thank you to Jose for producing a great show. Thanks to Peter, Kirsten, and Gabe for hanging out in the chat with us. And thanks to you guys for tuning in because we're here for you. And we really appreciate the eyeballs and the clicks. We love it. So we will be posting when the next episode is going to be of, I guess, part 2.
Digital M part 2.
We don't have to announce the thing that was going to be next.
We're doing it.
This is next because we're giving you guys the content. So thanks a lot. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
That's right. Good night, everyone.
Good night, guys.